Friends, if you're looking for real old school laughs, you're in for a treat because we've got them right here. Flip City Magazine. Remember Mad Magazine? Then it went woke? Well, don't worry. Flip City has no chance of going woke. That's right. 4 times a year, you'll get an actual printed magazine full of jokes, stories, comics, and more, all about today's pop culture, entertainment, and woke politics. Flip City takes terrible entertainment trends we love to hate with hilarious parodies of Lord of the Rings, Stranger Things, The Walking Dead, Star Trek, Hunters, and more. Trust me when I say there is nothing else like Flip City on the market. So subscribe today. It will be delivered in print, or you can even get it digitally if you're one of those wacky Zoomers. Either way, follow our link and sign up today, and if you put in midnight, you get an extra 10% off. Check out Flip City Magazine today.
Come on down and chum some of this shit.
Nerding out on monster movies for a bit. Nice to meet Gary and see you and Andy again. And hey, everybody, I hope you're having a good Sunday.
Yeah, me too. And also with us, the man who makes a lot of little monsters. As you
I
see, he's
make
got one over
turtles.
his shoulder. Yeah, and turtles.
I like turtles.
Mr. Andy Masterson, and look at that thing here from I keep wanting to call him Pumpkinhead. That's not Pumpkinhead. That's Sam from Trick or
Yes.
Treat.
Yes, this is Sideshow Collectibles version. It's very rare. He would have been worth a lot of money, but unfortunately his box got destroyed when my basement flooded years ago. But he's still pretty cool. I have to fix his little lollipop here that broke, but that fits in his hand. But he's a really cool guy, and it's really fun to scare your children with.
All right. Well, glad to have you here. We got a few others who will be joining us shortly. Brian, aka 70s Rock Fan, should be joining us. I think he's running a little behind, as will our producer extraordinaire, Mr. Toxic Man Flu. Because guess what? He's got the frickin' lists. So, poor guy. He's rushing to try and get them done. If worse comes to worse, I think I've got the top 5, but excuse me, I got the number 5, but I would like people to be here to talk about their list. So yeah. But that being said, it's that time of the year, Halloween time. We're right smack dab about week and roughly a half away or so, isn't it? Give or take here. This month it seems like an extra long month for October, but not quite. It's just as long as any other month, but because it started on a Sunday, it almost feels like we get that extra week, and Halloween comes on a Tuesday in the middle of a week, so yeah, that helps too. But now that I'm rambling, we got 70s Rock Fan here.
Well, good evening.
Hey there.
Hello, everybody. Speaking of rambling, I'm here.
Have you met Gary before?
Gary and I may well have been on a couple of streams before, but I'm
I think
not
we
sure.
have.
I think we
Okay,
have, Gary.
so
But,
Good to see you, my friend.
but it's
Good
great to see you guys.
Because I'm a
yes.
horrible host. Horrible.
Anyway, you're a wonderful person, though, Tom.
I do
makes
try.
all the difference.
But while we're waiting for Toxic Man Flu, let's say hello to the chat. We got Doug 1985. Did I say something wrong in the chat with the blob? I probably did. Oh, did I put 97? I meant 87 or 88 or whatever it was. My bad, guys. That's what I meant. You know what I meant. But that's right. We have a poll in the chat. We've got a couple of polls on Twitter, so get your votes in, guys. That way we can see what you guys think besides our own selves. But this is the first episode of our show here on the official list show, the shit list. We got Action Com here, Jason Webster, you Muslim uncles watching live. Nick S is here. Thank you for being here. We've got Ben Dowdy here. Let's see who else we got here. We got Eric Cole. I've never seen this name before, but welcome.
Oh,
Eric
it's
Cole Disinfant. How do you say that?
Urcule de Stefano. Urcule de
Urcule
Stefano.
de Stefano. Okay. We got Toxic Waltz here. How you doing? DS Ford's here. Coffee Lovers here. Darcipio's here. We got Old School Lou. Toxic Waltz, I already said that. But thank you for being here. Ninja Master. Thank you so much, guys. Hopefully VR will be ending soon, and we'll see some more people head in here. I see Davina Duckworth was here. I think like Putin's cat was hanging out early on. General Saad was as well. Hamdinger is here, folks. Usually the first one in the door. There you go. See, did he play Kingpin? Did who play Kingpin? I know Vincent D'Onofrio did, and
Michael Clark Duncan.
Michael Clark Duncan did. And the guy who plays Sala in Indiana Jones played him in the old Hulk movie.
Yeah, John Rhys Davies.
John Rhys Davies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Or
old
Reese,
TV
pardon
movie.
me, Reese.
It's Welsh. Who cares?
I know. Oh, the TV movies were great, man. I remember being a kid and seeing Thor and
The Trial.
and Hulk. Yeah, the Trial of the Incredible Hulk was great.
And Return, I think, was the one with Thor in it.
It looks like a Thor's hammer.
Maybe it was the Death of the Incredible Hulk where they all showed up and crossed over. Maybe that was it.
I don't remember. I think the death was just him. That was years later.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, that was like in the late 80s, early 90s, I want to say they did that one.
I think they planned to do another one, but then Bixby passed away. So
That's
I
probably
think,
true. But they did the Death of the Incredible Hulk. It's kind of lame.
Yeah.
He died from falling from an airplane.
Exactly. It's like, what?
What is he, a rock star?
Or no, it was a helicopter, not an airplane.
It was a
But
helicopter,
it's,
yeah, he's
it's
hanging off a
still, it was
helicopter.
like, pfft, that ain't going to kill the Hulk. Like, what?
Yeah.
Right.
It's likely to hurt the ground a bit, but
Oh, yeah, it hurt the ground. He made a crater like the Joker did in Batman 89, but it was just like, come on. What a lame way for the Hulk to go out. Oh, Jason Webster, thank you so much. Sends in a 5 from Australia. Says the early reviews for Godzilla -1 have been extremely positive. I'd imagine so, considering the trailers look good. And I'm sure we're going to talk about some Gojira tonight. It's really good stuff. Have you seen this yet? Speaking of Godzilla, has everybody seen the baby Godzilla video that's here?
I don't think
I know
so.
Brian
I
probably
don't think
has.
so. No, I
Andy
don't
has.
think I have in this case, Tom. No.
Okay, well, we're going to watch it real
I don't
quick.
think so. No, I haven't
Little
seen
Yell
it.
is adorable.
I want so many of those. Screw Baby Yoda.
Exactly.
I want Baby Gojira fighting little.
I love his quiet
Ghidorah.
roar.
Yeah, his little. He thinks him so big.
Very nice.
Christian Delorme says, "Greetings, wonderful people. Thank you for entertaining me while I work." Well, thank you for listening, Christian. We appreciate it.
Good friend
that.
of mine, Christian.
Yes,
Lovely
indeed.
guy.
Yes, and a regular here at the channel as well. So thank you for that. And hopefully Tox will be along shortly. So while we're waiting for Tox, he sent us. Let's see here. He's going to be sending us the first set for several here. So hopefully we'll be able to get started here. But while we're waiting, let's do one of these. Let's finish up one of the polls on Twitter, because I think some of them are already done. Yeah, they're all done. So let's see here. Let's do this one first. Your guys' favorite monster movie. The choices were King Kong, Jaws, Godzilla, and The Thing. And the winner was The Thing by a landslide. 50% of the vote went to The Thing.
All right.
There you go.
It's a tough one to beat, man.
Yeah, with second place going to Jaws with 25%, Godzilla, the original, getting 16%, and the original Kong coming in last place with 7.1%. Poor Kong.
Oh.
Thank you guys for voting in that. We got a few more polls we're going to get into in the heat of the night here, so we keep going. So
Kong is not a monster though. He's a sweet person that's been pushed into a very difficult position.
That's what I was about to say. He's not fearsome. He's not fearsome. He's vulnerable.
He's vulnerable, and
so is Jaws.
A little bit. Well, I mean, if you watch Jaws in reverse, it's a lovely story about a shark who gives body parts back to amputees.
Yeah.
and improves the tourist attraction of the town, makes the town a tourist attraction.
Yeah. So by leaving,
improves the economy of the town.
Saves a girl while she's swimming drunk at the end.
Exactly.
It's a beautiful picture.
There's only one letdown though. This guy that's the chief of police, all of a sudden he just becomes afraid of water for no reason, you know.
Well, after you deal with that, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, okay. So we got Nick S here who says, "I hope Beast from 20,000 Fathoms is on the list." Well, what the list is, guys, is each of us have put in our top 5 lists. So we're going to go through each number individually and talk a little bit about our movies. And now some of them will probably show up on multiple lists. So if that's the case, well, then we'll just talk about them then. But at the same time, it's going to be a fun night, I hope. And I just screwed up the thing here. Sorry about that. Trying to do too many things at once.
Oh my gosh.
It's one of those things where you think you're prepared and then you're not.
Oh, you mean life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Marriage.
And I don't know what poor Toxic Man Flu's dealing with right now because, he should be here. But this is, he's busy as can be usually.
So I was busy prepping for my show tomorrow, which is about scary rock bands for Halloween. And I think I found the best version of the Monster Mash, which is by the Misfits.
Oh yeah,
So, yeah.
I didn't know the Misfits did a version of it.
They did, and it's really good. It's probably the best version because I mean, Monster Mash is a cliche, as it were. I said no Monster Mash on the show tomorrow until I found the Misfits version. So it's a very scary version.
That sounds good.
Yeah. So that was a fun day prepping for that.
All right, so let me see, make sure I got everybody's lists here. I think
This was a very tough list to do, I found. But they're all tough, but this one was really tough because A, what is a monster? And
Well,
B, do you do you include groups of monsters? So creatures that act together in a monstrous way.
Sure.
That are not just one. Yeah, I mean, so there was a number of parameters. I'm always overthinking it. But
Sort of trying to figure out like what is a Christmas movie? Does Die Hard count, etc.? It's sort of like what is a monster movie versus a thriller or something else? Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean,
well, I think this debate's going to come up a little bit tonight
Sure.
as we go along because when I was making my list, I had to ask myself that too. Is like, do you rule out things that are natural since they're technically not monsters, or are they monsters because they act a certain way?
That's the question. Yes. That's
Yeah.
a good question.
Yeah.
And how many movies with nasty aliens do you include? You know, I mean,
Right. Well, that's
balance
just
across
it.
the
Yeah.
subgenres.
Especially with a lot of sequels and
Yeah.
all that kind of business.
Yeah,
Amber
I know
Heard
this isn't
movies.
on. Sorry.
Amber Heard movies.
That's right.
Yeah, I know this isn't on anybody's list, so I'm safe in mentioning it. When I was coming up with my list, my first thought was for my number 5 was going to be Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer because I'm thinking, if you want a monster movie, but then does he count because it's like Tom said, it's kind of set in reality, quote unquote.
I mean, I almost put the movie Monster on.
Well, that's
literally called Monster.
Movie. Yeah, exactly.
But, yes, it's tough. And then because you write your top 5, and then 2 minutes later you go, well, here's a different one, top 5 I should have picked.
Right.
And then where do you draw the lines? I kind of mixed and matched mine a bit. I mean, there may be other movies I like better, but I felt I wanted to go for examples of certain subgenres that I like. So,
Yeah, and then we got a few more super chats here. Let's see. We got London 19657 who says, interesting to see all my favorite guys together. Lucky to catch you guys live. Keep it up. Well, hold that thought because Toxic Man Flu will be here before you know it. So I don't know if he's one of your favorites or not. Peter Smigelski is here and he's become a member. Thank you for that. Christian's been a member for 18 months. Thank you for the milestone. And Grand Admiral Adam sends in a 9-month member chat and says, I watched the Pennywise documentary today. Oh, good. It's a good one. Pretty good. And Ned O'Toole was the only main cast member not in it of those that are still alive. You know, I didn't even notice that. Now that you say that, I didn't notice that when I was watching it till now. But it's really good. You can find it on, I think it's Screambox or Shudder, one of those two. And Kitty Bear has been a member for 19 months. Thank you so much for that. So yeah, let's you know what? Hopefully Tox will be along here shortly. Let's get started with this list. Since we've got some people for a limited time here. Starting off with our top 5 monster movies. We're gonna kick it off here. We got number 5 from Gary. He picked Jaws. Gary, take it away.
Well, the reason I picked this, and there was a little bit of a debate whether whether Bruce is a monster. I think it's a monster because first off, the design is, if you all have seen a real great white shark, it's very streamlined and it doesn't, it's very hydrodynamic, you could say. Jaws is very angular, very ugly. Really, it's got like these hideous jowls. The teeth are enlarged, and I don't know if you guys noticed this, but he actually has a scar on his eye. So this is totally a monster to me. This is my number 1 favorite monster movie and favorite monster. I mean, the very same day that I saw this movie, my mother took me to Universal Studios and put me on the tram, and I was only 5-6 years old, and the shark popped out of the water at me. So that was a huge moment in my life. Jaws is a very real monster to me in many, many ways.
So this is actually your number 1 pick or your number 5 pick?
This is my number 1 pick.
Okay, so you did it backwards. Okay, gotcha.
Did I?
Because actually, no, that's okay. Because this is actually on my list too at number 1. But no, I'm glad you put it on there for all the same reasons. I was debating myself. This is why I was kind of like flip-flopping on my list. I'm like, does Jaws count because he is an animal?
I wonder,
you know.
that, yeah.
But at the same time, he becomes a beast and he does things that normally sharks wouldn't do. So I think that counts within the monster.
I mean, I kind of thought about, what would the first caveman monster storyteller do? Like if he was drawing a woolly mammoth on the wall, he'd give it longer teeth and, scarier eyes. And, he'd tell this monster story to all his little cave kids. So
yeah, that's very much
basically
what
Jaws is. You know what I mean? So
very good point. Very good point.
I thought Gary was going to burst into the opening of Greased Lightning there. It was hydrodynamic. Systematic.
It's Jaws Lightning. Go Jaws Lightning, you're eating up a whole damn beach.
Jaws Lightning, go Jaws Lightning.
Go,
sorry,
Jaws,
I couldn't resist that, Gary. Sorry.
Oh man.
Yeah. All right. So unless anybody else want to add to Jaws, I mean, look, it's my favorite movie of all time. So it's kind of hard not to put it on the list. Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on. Yeah, poor Alex Kittner. We got number 5 on Scribe Light's list is The Descent.
Yeah, it's a great little movie from, I think it was like 2005, and it has a really excellent setup with you have this group of women that want to go off and have this bonding experience, kind of reverses the whole usual male thing. But this is before all the woke stuff, and they don't get into that so much, and just have really well established characters and relationships that end up stuck. I mean, if you didn't have monsters in it, you'd probably still have a decent thriller/drama, but then you add these troglodyte underground dwelling blind but great ears sort of monsters hunting them down in groups and packs and everything in this confined space, and on top of the personal relationships which come into play at key points, it's just a really great all-around survival movie, and the monsters are very well thought out, and they're a great feature to the whole thing. The sequel, but the first one's great, I thought.
All right. I've never actually seen it. Anybody else?
I haven't
It's
either.
excellent.
I'm not familiar with this movie.
Oh, it's excellent.
I've heard of it, but I've never seen it.
Yeah, it's a relatively low budget, but really, I mean, it's such a tightly written movie, and the characters are so well established. You really get stuck in it real quick. It's great.
I'll have to check it out.
Sounds good.
See, I didn't know it was a monster movie. So that makes all the difference in the world. All right, number 5 on Brian's list is The Curse of Frankenstein from 1957, The Hammer.
Yeah, I wanted to have at least one hammer and one old school monster. And I've always been very fond of this movie. The first color hammer horror, 1957, with Christopher Lee as Frankenstein's monster, pre-Dracula, of course. So, although obviously you couldn't see a lot of his real face in it, but good to see, a role that made him quite famous in the UK, certainly, particularly before Dracula. So, it's got the necessary amount of heaving bosoms for a Hammer movie. So,
well, that's important.
It is, but yeah, great job by Christopher Lee in it.
I'm trying to remember if I've seen it.
Great revival.
I know I've seen a couple of them, but if I have, it's been a while. I know I got it, but.
So this was my Hammer and my old school monster pick.
All right. Anybody else want to talk on that one?
I love the Hammer, Dracula, and Frankenstein. They're so good.
It's really very intimidating.
Yes. All right. Well, let's keep going then. We've got. We'll come back to Toxic Man Flu's pick as soon as he gets back here, I guess. In the meantime, we've got The Wolfman on Andy's number 5 pick. I'm assuming you mean the original 1930s classic.
Yeah, 1941.
Or 1941, sorry. Yep.
Yeah, Lon Chaney Jr. That was, I grew up on Saturday afternoon horror movies. We had a local magician that did his Svengoolie thing, where he actually got approval from the guy, not Svengoolie. It was the original thing that like the guy had first done with this, and guy up in New York, and he had gotten his blessing to create his Dr. Shock character. And he used to do horror theater on every Saturday afternoon. And the Universal monsters were always like, especially since my dad saw them when they first came out. He saw Dracula and Frankenstein in the theaters, and he was always quick to remind me that they were only a nickel back then. But I grew up on these things, and that transformation scene when Lon Chaney is like with the hair growing and stuff like that, and the eyes moving, it was so groundbreaking and so unique, and seeing how it influenced so many other things, I just, it was great, especially since he was just a cursed character. He was, he wasn't a bad guy. He just couldn't help himself like most men.
Yep.
Yeah, it is an allegory for men. That's what's kind of funny about it. In a lot of ways.
Never thought about that. It really
yeah.
is.
and that's a good point too about him being basically like a victim of circumstance, right? It's a curse. It's not his choice. It's not something that he wanted to happen. And that's what makes him a sympathetic monster of sorts. Kind of the first besides Frankenstein in a way, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Anybody else got anything to say about the Wolfman?
I think Lon Chaney Jr. came across as far more sort of gentle and relatable as a cursed character than I haven't seen every Wolfman movie ever made, but compared to say Benicio del Toro or I'm suddenly forgetting his name from the Hammer deal.
Oliver Reed.
Oliver Reed, yes, Oliver Reed. I mean,
good
Oliver,
performance. Very good.
Great actor. But at the same time, it's like I can't look at Oliver Reed without thinking of something of a thuggish sort of character at the same time. But Lon Chaney Jr. just seems like kind of just a scared, normal guy, and I think he pulled off that part of it much better than a lot of other actors.
And he reprised the role in Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein,
right?
Which is classic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I recently found a casting of the Wolfman's cane.
Did you?
And I restored it. Yeah. If you give me a minute, I'll go get it if you guys want to move on.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I'll be right back.
Go ahead and grab that.
I always wanted that cane. I always want, like, if I got to be an old man, I always wanted that wolf's head cane. That was like cool.
Where do you see this this reproduction you just got scribed?
Oh yeah.
Oh
man.
It's the detail on it's amazing.
Oh jeez, I thought that was so cool.
Yeah, he manages to get some really good reproductions.
Yeah.
From the authentic cast and everything.
Do they sell those separately otherwise, or no?
There
oh wow!
Oh, let me make you big here. There you go.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, look at that. And the star
nice.
on the. Oh, that's great.
Didn't Dracula have one something like that too?
Dracula had a from what I know, he had a ring.
Oh, nice.
That I know, but I thought he had a cane too. Unless I'm thinking.
I don't know,
sequels.
but there's only one reason why this exists is because at the end of the movie, Claude Rains beats Lon Chaney with the cane, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes.
And they had to cast the original and make a rubber one so that Lon Chaney didn't get his head split open, and that's the only reason why this exists. Bob Burns, the famous monster movie guy and collector, he has the original one. I don't remember where I got this, but I found it. Actually, a friend of mine I had given it to a long time ago. She found it, dug it up for me, and she's like, "Hey, do you want this?" Yeah, I do want it. I cleaned it up, restored it, and now I can make more of them. So,
oh man,
there it is.
Very nice.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see here. Where are we at now? My number 5 is Ghoulies 2.
There you go.
All right.
Classic.
One of the rare sequels that is better than the original. It's a lot of fun. I don't know who's all seen it, but this one don't necessarily have to have seen the first one. It just kind of does its own thing. The Ghoulies wind up at an amusement park where they take safe haven in a fun house where they're mistaken at first for funhouse creatures, only to start killing the patrons. It's a lot of fun. It's a great film. I don't know how it ever got to be PG-13, but it did. but it was definitely a lot of fun. I remember growing up on cable all the time, and yeah, I don't know how many different copies of it. It was for some good reason, no real good reason, but yeah. So yeah, I don't know if anybody else wants to say anything about Ghoulies or the Ghoulies franchise in general, but I thought I had to represent. So
They're great creatures. They really
Yeah.
are. They, I think that they really. The movie did it come out in theaters?
yeah, the first two did.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, because the poster,
And maybe the third one, I can't remember.
I
but
remember
yeah.
the poster of that nasty little creature popping out of the toilet. And
Yeah.
that totally sells the movie right there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's very.
Yeah, that was a
It's
good
a
one.
very iconic little creature. I think they're cool. I
Yeah.
don't remember these movies. I got to check them out again. You say I don't even have to watch Ghoulies 2?
No, but Ghoulies 1 is fun. Ghoulies 2 is really good.
Okay.
Ghoulies 3 is a big step backwards, and Ghoulies 4 is kind of a what the fuck.
There's 4 of them. Okay.
Yes. Ghoulies 1 and 2 are produced by Charlie Band.
Okay. Yeah.
And John Carl Buechler did the Ghoulie effects and created the Ghoulies. And then he bought the rights to them and did part 3. And then part 4 doesn't even have any real creatures in it. It's just little people. It's kind of weird. But anyway, that being said, no, yeah, Ghoulies 2 is probably the best of the bunch as far as story and everything like that. So.
I'll check it out.
Groovy.
I think it's always better to have 2 ghoulies than 1. I agree.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's true. Yes.
2 ghoulies, 1 cup.
Oh God.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's not
Let's
watch that one.
let's take a moment to see what you guys are saying out there in the chat right now. Christian Delorme asks, "Who is the best horror director?"
Jeez.
Good question. You know, I would say probably pound for pound, as far as strictly horror, maybe Wes Craven. Because John Carpenter, I would say, but he has done a lot more than just horror. He does a lot of sci-fi
Yeah.
and action and stuff. But Wes Craven has done a lot of flat out, just really good horror films. And I mean, just between The Hills Have Eyes, Last House on the Left, Nightmare on Elm Street, Scream, those just alone, not to mention some of his other, ones like The People Under the Stairs and stuff like that, Serpent in the Rainbow.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got just such a breadth of... And Toby Hooper's another one you can't sleep on either. But what do you guys think, Gary?
I think you're probably right when you say Wes Craven. If we're going for the best and not like our personal favorite, my personal favorite is John Carpenter. But you're probably right, man. I can't argue with Wes Craven.
Yeah, I think you're right, Tom. I mean, as Gary said, I've got other personal favorites, but I can't argue with what you said there. I think pound for pound, you may be right. He is the best catalog overall.
Yeah. Scribe?
I agree. I'll give us at least a special mention to David Cronenberg. I think as far as just like body horror and even in things that weren't specifically horror, like A History of Violence and things like that, there's just a certain level of the way he's able to take something that's either fantastical or real and really put the visceral nature into it with the visuals is a kind of horror in and of itself that I think he's very good at.
Yeah. Andy?
I would have to agree with the Wes Craven approach because he's very prolific in just horror. And he's made an art form out of it.
Right.
A lot of the other directors have done, I mean, Friedkin, when he did Exorcist, I mean, that thing is just like, that is in everybody's top 5 of the most frightening movies that they've ever seen, at least anyone I've ever met. And he did such a masterful job in that. But he does other genres. So, but Craven, he kind of stayed in his field, and he's made, for the amount of work that he's done, they're all very, very good.
Yeah.
We did not mention George Romero, though.
No, that's another one, though, that's a lot like Craven.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm going by both influential and their catalog, but yeah, Romero.
Yeah.
Romero's got a
definitely up there.
narrower field work.
A little narrow field, but he's probably had just as much influence with the zombie aspect. But no, like I said, Craven, between Nightmare on Elm Street, Scream, and just the idea of The Last House on the Left and the kind of movies that spawned, I mean, he had so much influence on just horror movies in general, and always kind of upping the game a little bit,
especially with Scream. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's keep moving along here. We got a couple more super chats, or at least one more, I think, or two more, I think. We've got Nick S, who says The Descent is awesome, but make sure to watch the original ending version, not the happier American release version.
Indeed, yes. Watch,
okay.
yeah. If you're going to watch The Descent, definitely find. I think there's either the director's cut or like a unrated cut or something. Definitely watch that one.
Yeah. There you go. Jason Webster says, I know people that really like the Kathoga creature designed from the Relic, 1997.
See, here's the problem I had with the creature from the Relic is that Stan Winston, as far as I understand it, designed that creature, and Stan Winston really loves those mandibles, because every time I saw that character, I always thought of the Predator, and I just couldn't stop seeing it's the Predator, but with 4 legs, and I don't know. I mean, the movie I saw in the theater, it was okay at the time. CGI doesn't hold up, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I think I was trying to remember. I think Brahma Bull, who wasn't able to make it tonight, I think he mentioned that one.
He did,
actually. Yeah. That's what I was trying to see here. But yeah, thank you for that, Jason Webster. And now let's get back to our polls here, or our lists, I should say. Here we go. Back where we left off, and then let's see here. Let's see where we at here. Got those. Sorry, I'm a little trying to do all this. This is why we're really trying
it's
to
all right,
learn
man.
here.
You're doing great.
But we've got Gary's next pick is Christine. This was an oddball. When I saw that, I kind of thought about it for a little bit.
Yep.
I'm like, is Christine a monster?
I think so.
Yeah, I get you.
If we
it's
go
a
with
spiritual car or whatever, or a possessed car.
mean,
Yeah.
If we go with the same theory that I had with Jaws, then I mean, at the end of the Christine, I mean, it looks like a giant mouth coming out of the front of this car, and Christine is a very scary and interesting monster to me. The movie, I wish it would have been more graphic and had better kills in it. You know what I mean? But I really, really like Christine. I love the music. I love the car. I think it's a really creepy, weird, odd movie. And the car is. I think Stephen King was right when he chose that car. It's kind of a forgotten car of its era, but it's got that classic forward look, but it's really ugly. It's really quite ugly, like Jaws is ugly, And
it's a bit of a. Like it does kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Evolve throughout the film.
Yeah, it does. Definitely I guess that would have been my second pick.
Turns the owner into a monster of sorts as well.
Yeah, it turns everybody into a monster.
Yeah.
Anybody who owns or possesses or is around that car, man, it just...
Keep on knocking, but you can't come in.
Oh man, my favorite scene is the seduction repair scene with Harlem Nocturne play. It's so good. It's cheesy, but it's so good.
And this is one of those few times, again, I will say, well, actually, this is kind of more common with King than some other writers, I guess I would say. This is, again, one of those movies that's probably better than the book. It sticks pretty close. Sticks pretty close. Even some of the songs and some of the stuff are in the book from my memory. And actually, wasn't it a novella, if I remember right, or was it a full book? I can't remember.
It was a full book. I think.
Was it okay?
The book was released, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was released after the movie came out.
Could be. I mean, I know it was.
I think that there was some weird thing where he had written the book and they sold the rights, and then the movie came out, and then the book was right after.
It's possible because Spielberg got Jaws before it was ever released. And they
really?
started
I
working
didn't
on
know
the movie.
that.
Yeah, he actually saw a transcript of it. Saw it laying on a desk because he just saw the name Jaws on this transcript and he thought it was about a dentist. He's like, "What's that?" And he goes, and it was I think it was David O. Selznick or whoever goes, "Funny you should ask."
Wouldn't that just be called Gums then? Just be Gums.
Yeah. Gums. Yeah. Anybody got anything else to say about the Plymouth Fury?
Nah.
Hell of a car.
The Fury of Plymouth.
Sounds like a movie title in its own. Yeah,
I know, right?
Fury.
Didn't they do a movie called Fury or something like that with another killer car?
Yeah, that's Brian De Palma. Oh, you mean the car one? I
Oh,
don't
there was
know.
another one with a car, I think, or something like that. But yeah, there was a Brian De Palma one called Fury as well.
Yeah, that's a good one.
All right, Christine,
Nice.
Stephen King love. There we go
Mm-hmm.
from Andy. All right, let's see. Next up, we got Scribe here, and he is doing the monsters that he's doing are very Geiger-esque, I guess, and what's the guy's name?
Lovecraftian.
Lovecraftian. Thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead with Deep Rising.
Deep Rising, man. I mean, the closest you're going to get to a Cthulhu versus people movie. It was. I mean, just everything about that movie was so much. Oh, it was so much fun. It was just. It was a popcorn movie to the nth degree. The setup is great. The characters are hilarious. Like Treat Williams is in there playing this sort of swashbuckle, sort of Han Solo-ish kind of character, and they're all like little pirates. And I forget the guy's name all of a sudden. He was Lord of Illusions, and he was Benny and the Mummy and everything. God, what the heck is his name? Somebody in the Anderson. Is it Kevin Anderson?
Yeah.
Somebody in the chat's going to remind me. But anyway, it was so much fun, and it was funny and scary at the same time, and everything you wanted out of a monster movie when I was a teenager. And I still occasionally watch it just once in a while. And even though the effects a little dated here and there, and just the optical cropping doesn't quite work in some places, still, when that guy's whole side of his face gets melted off by the monster having half digested him, I just, even to this day, I was like, oh God. And it's so good, and the ending is very satisfying. So yeah, just a really fun movie.
It's one I have, but I haven't got around to watching it, sadly. But,
Oh, it's great. It's so much fun.
I saw it years ago. Yeah,
it's comedy and scares. It's great.
Yeah, it's definitely like a fun movie.
And Famke Janssen back in the back in the day, like the Faculty days and James Bond and stuff. Yeah.
Xenia on the top. Oh boy.
All right, well, let's see what Brian
enjoy
got.
A good squeeze.
For his number 4, it's The Host.
The Host, and to be specific, the Korean movie The Host, because there's at least 2 other hosts. It's the 2006 Korean movie. So I think I've forgotten what my list was. So I think it's the only non-English language movie on here. There could have been a few more, but this is the only one. I'm a big fan of Korean stuff, so
you would be the bougie bitch of the bunch, wouldn't you?
I would. I do like the style of the monster in this, which is mutated fish, really, but it's got kind of grows legs and it can walk and as well as swim and can grab things, and it very effectively grabs people out of the Han River.
So it's like Harvey Weinstein.
It's a little bit like that, yeah. In fact, it does tend to kidnap a lot of younger ladies. Throughout the movie, so
offer them jobs in Hollywood.
And it's given it a relatively low budget. I think they did a pretty good job with the monster. And there is a lot of, I mean, the director Bong Joon-ho, can always get that in the right order.
Interesting name.
He obviously did stuff like Snowpiercer and then Parasite. Parasite's like the same movie but without a monster. So so he does a lot of social commentary type stuff. But this one, that was in there, but it also had these fantastic monster scenes, and it's a lot of fun. And it even features a nice little spot by Scott Wilson, the late great Scott Wilson, obviously, who's been in lots of great movies and was in The Walking Dead too, so he's in it as well. So
Scott Glenn.
Scott Glenn is nowhere near it.
Oh,
I do not believe, unless he was somehow stationed in South Korea.
That's my
during
favorite,
that time.
Scott.
But it's great. I just like the monster in it. It's kind of slithery and fishy and not quite like anything seen in anything else. I don't think. So I think it was Weta did the work on that as well. So anyway, there you go. Tentacle monsters.
I think you're the only one who saw it, but I remember the poster. I've seen the poster.
Yeah. I just like the monster. The film itself is kind of, it's kind of a little bit predictable or whatever, but the monster is nice and slimy.
Yeah. Well, Tox is still not here. He's not feeling the greatest, so I don't know if he's going to make it or not. But his next pick was Mighty Joe Young.
Great movie.
Great film.
Yep.
He's a giant ape fan, apparently.
Yes, and I got no problems with that. His list is very similar to mine in that respect.
Quit monkeying around.
I like Mighty Joe Young. Technically, the third Kong film, or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, a little bit more kid oriented, not so much scary.
Right. King Kong's badass. I love that movie.
I have a feeling King Kong's going to come up again, so we'll come back to it.
Well, the best thing about Mighty Joe Young is it's everybody that wanted Kong to live got it in this one.
Yes.
Yeah. There you go.
And this has the best effects on it too. And oh God, who was it? Who did the original? Help me out.
Harryhausen.
No, well, Harryhausen worked on this one, but the original one was because he worked as an assistant. Harryhausen worked as an assistant to the guy who did the effects for the original too. I'm trying to remember his name.
I don't remember his name either.
Yeah,
was it Harry Rayhausen?
No. But anyway, yeah. So this has been one of the first movies that Ray Harryhausen worked on.
See, I nearly made you do that. I nearly made you do that.
You're a jerk.
Ray Skywalker.
Ray Skywalker.
Skywalker. Yes.
But no, hopefully Tox makes it here soon. I just wanted to give him a shot at, or give his movie a moment. But moving on, and this one I'm not surprised it showed up on somebody's list. Andy had to bring it up though. The Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
now, Gary, don't you have something to go with that?
I do. Unfortunately, I loaned it to our local
Okay,
theater.
never mind then.
I would totally bring it out, and this would have been the perfect moment to bring it out. But I actually have a casting of the Creature from the Black Lagoon, the original monster mask that was used in the film.
Yes, and Willis O'Brien.
That's
why
Willis O'Brien. Yep.
But yes, all right. Well, thank you, Gary. Anyway, I knew you had it, but then I'm like, shit, you don't have it now. So anyway, take it away, Andy.
Creature from the Black Lagoon. It was a spectacular movie, filmed in, I believe, in Florida. There's a place where the water's crystal clear.
Miami, I think, yeah.
And they filmed the whole thing in there. That creature was so disturbing looking and so realistic, and watching like the swimmer that was in that costume go through the water, it was just so believable. And what's her name? She was just stunning in that. The girl, I forget her name right now, but wow, yeah, great movie. It was one of those things that kind of probably the first like aquatic monster like that in horror, I think. I mean, we had like octopuses and stuff like that, but like really not anything that was sort of like humanoid and things like that. Great movie. And the makeup and the special effects were just out of this world.
Tom, I did find this. I forgot I had it on my wall, but it's actually a styrofoam. It's a styrofoam.
Oh my God, that's
pull
beautiful.
from it. Let me dim this light a little bit here.
It seems a lot smaller than it looks in the movie. Wow.
Is it wearable, Gary?
Well,
mold, but yeah.
This is actually I did a styrofoam casting of the face, but I have the mold, and I ended up getting this from a casting that was hanging on the wall of a place called Jerry's Video in Burbank, which is right down the street from Universal Studios. And somebody was, one of the guys that worked at Universal Prop House must have brought him a casting of it and just had it hang on the wall. Well, Jerry passed away, and his wife sold me the casting, so I made another mold of it because I wanted to make more of them. And so this is the original front of the front half of the Creature from the Black Lagoon.
It would like wrap around, and they would have like how would it come together? They didn't have Velcro yet back then. It would just be a zipper.
If you look, they had it's kind of like this weird seam there.
Right.
I think that there's half of this is missing. There's another half to the mold that I never got a casting of, but you could tell that it's separated there. But yeah, I've aside from them modifying the eyes, I've done a lot of research from the original movie and looked at this thing, and it's legitimate.
I was going to say, I'm assuming for the sequels they just used the same molds all over again, didn't they?
Possibly, I don't know. They may have modified.
I think it all looked the same. I can't remember if it looked any different from my recollection.
but that's it. Yeah, and if you know what's interesting is we're talking about Universal monsters. Bela Lugosi was just basic makeup. The Wolfman was complicated makeup. This was an actual mask.
Full-on
and
mask and
I think
costume,
that
yeah.
this is the only Universal monster that still exists today through this casting.
Right. I see what
So,
you're saying.
You know what I mean?
think,
Like,
I think some face masks of, or whatever you want to call them, face molds of like Bela Lugosi exist, but
they
that'd
do,
probably be
yeah.
about it,
Okay,
yeah.
so there's that.
And maybe, and I know there's a bust of, what's his face?
Boris Karloff?
Boris Karloff. Somewhere,
I have, I have one over there. I was sculpting
Okay.
my own Frankenstein makeup on it, but this is like the only monster mask that still exists from the original Universal monsters.
Right. From head to
So-
toe, or from the head or whatever. From
Exactly.
Consider it the full makeup or whatever. Not
Yeah.
makeup, it's mask. I mean, yeah, I knew what you
And-
meant. I'm trying to get it right.
Yeah, and this casting from this same mold, you can actually also see in the 40-Year-Old Virgin. It's in the eBay store scene. I think she's selling it in the back.
Now,
It's funny.
didn't they make a bunch of masks in the 50s as well from the same mold for something?
I don't know
like
about
that.
that.
I thought
I
I
don't
heard
know.
something like that.
I know that was a common practice for a while when people didn't realize that, you know, like the prop makers during the off season would make monster masks for Halloween.
Monster masks, yeah.
And they would just use the same mold. Well, nowadays you can't do that kind of thing because, you know, it totally devalues the original sculpture. But they could have. I mean, who knows?
I thought I had heard something like that. But yeah, he's also the last of the original monsters from the Universal monster movies too. He came in real late in the game in the 1950s, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's in 3D.
So Gary's got a bust of Boris Karloff. I would be impressed if you said, Gary, that you've got a bust of Jane Mansfield. That would be
Ooh, now we're talking.
Or Jane
Now we're
Mansfield
talking.
bust. Oh. All
Yeah,
right.
I'd make a pillow out of it and I'd just sleep on it.
That's what we
My
need.
pillow.
Tit pillows. We're gonna make a fortune.
That sounds great. Oh.
Oh my god. All right, moving on with my number 4 pick from 1986, Critters.
Hmm.
They bite.
I see a theme here.
Yeah.
Well, I love little rubber monsters. And Critters are no exception, obviously, even though they're hairy. But of all the quote-unquote gremlin clones that came out of that era, even though Critters was written before Gremlins came out, Critters is probably considered the best of the bunch. They're, of course, about these little porcupine-style creatures that are rather intelligent and very hungry. They come from outer space. They steal a spaceship after breaking out of a space prison and land on a family farm outside of Kansas, in Kansas, and it's a small town, and wreak havoc. And they're followed by some bounty hunters who can transform into pretty much anybody, and chaos ensues. It's kind of a comedy, sci-fi, horror-ish kind of movie, but it was great. I remember watching it many, many times growing up. I've seen it a million times ever since. I'm probably one of the authorities on Critters out there, which is kind of sad, I guess, for myself. But yeah, and I don't think you probably have anything for Critters, Gary, because I know the Kyoto brothers are pretty.
I don't know.
Yeah, they keep
I
things
wish
pretty
I
close
did.
to the chest, otherwise, unless they sell it specifically. But
Yeah.
yeah. So Critters, though, great film, 1986, New Line Cinema.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else wants to say anything about it.
Oh, the bounty hunters that when they start out and they don't have any faces, that freaked me out as a kid when they hadn't formed yet or whatever, and I saw that I was like, what is that?
Transform.
Yeah.
Nothing likes me. Find something. Yeah, it's a great flick. So let's see. We got a couple super chats from you guys. We got Patrick James who says, "Okay, I need to know, what is the stupidest horror movie made within the last 10 years?" Oh God, that list would be so long, Patrick.
Oh. How'd you pronounce it? La Lunora or whatever? It's that ghost story by the guy that did The Nun 2.
I'll say the
pretty
Scream
bad.
movies, the newer Scream movies.
Oh,
Just because they're
yeah.
horrible, and I had higher expectations for those, and shouldn't make them without Wes Craven. Anybody else got anything?
Nope. That's the name of the movie.
Yeah, exactly. There you
I
go.
remember that one. Nope.
Overrated.
Get out.
Get out.
Yeah. The title says it all, folks.
Yeah.
I think it'd make it easier to pick the good ones in the band.
Right? Yeah, Megan was really good. Cocaine Bear was okay.
Speaking of Megan, has anyone seen the pictures of Princess Beatrice, Prince Andrew's daughter?
No.
She's looking very robotic
Oh my
on that.
god,
Oh no.
that is weird.
No, I didn't.
I've not seen that. No.
Patrick James says, in regards to my last super chat, should have made a horror reference into a monster reference. Man, it sucks getting old. Where's my scotch? Okay, well,
Worst
stupidest
monster
movie
monster.
Dracula's dog.
Okay, you know what's sad?
The unused Predator.
You have a copy of that?
I do.
Oh no.
I'm looking for it because I think I have it right here too.
Was that in the last 10 years?
No, Zoltan, the Hound of Dracula.
Oh, Zoltan. Wait, wasn't that the name of the machine that is used in Big to turn in Big? Wasn't it Zoltan or something?
Zoltan, I think.
Yeah.
Zoltar. Oh, okay.
Was it, it could have been Zoltan.
It's got Jose Ferrer, huh? Wow. Look at that.
Oh, Jose Ferrer. Wow. That's
Wow.
a classic.
He's
Big
only third
name.
on the bill, though.
Big name.
Okay. Damn, all right.
Yeah.
Wow.
I like Dracula stuff.
If it was Tom
I collect, like,
Connor's
all
Poon
Dracula
Hound of
movies.
Dracula, would have been.
Yeah, that's Poonhound. Oh, yeah. Boy, this is a tough one. I mean, like the fact that Ghoulies 4 doesn't have an actual ghoulie in it, I think that probably counts. What do you got here, Andy? What's this?
Dracula-
Dracula's dog. Is that the
Dog.
same movie?
I don't know. This is from 77.
I think that's when this was. Yeah, 77.
Yep. Same,
Yeah, I
same
just
deal.
remember
It's
like
probably the same movie, just alternate title.
yeah,
I
with the
think the
dog.
Zoltan title's better.
The
Yeah,
dog would go around
definitely.
biting other dogs' necks.
And it's a brand new
we
4K
care.
master. Ooh.
Ooh.
Yeah.
It had well, look at the cast: Michael Pataki, Reggie Nalder. If I open it up, and probably has a reverse, it probably has a reverse thing on the other side. That's Dracula's dog. I bet you watch. I bet you they're the same movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, they used to do that all the time, especially for so they could keep re-releasing movies in drive-ins.
All right.
And people would think they're completely different movies when they're the same fucking movie.
Suckers.
You know, already. Suckers. All right, let's go to one of the polls on the old Twitters or X, whatever you call it nowadays. We did the what's your favorite monster movie before? The Thing won. Now let's do the scariest movie, Monster. The choices are Godzilla, It, Pumpkinhead, and Alien. And the winner was, by a huge margin, the Alien. That's right, H.R. Geiger's Alien.
I agree with that.
Yeah, 62% went to the Alien. It got 18%, surprisingly. And Godzilla came in third with 11.5, and Pumpkinhead with 7.1. That pesky 7.1 is in there. There you go. So, all right, let's get back to our lists here, guys. We got quite a few more to go. We're already running a little over time. Isn't that always how it works? So next, Gary had, speaking of dogs, an American Werewolf in London.
Yes.
Excellent.
Werewolves
Yeah.
of London.
This movie, I love the original Wolfman, but this is the one this is the very first werewolf movie I saw. And I saw it when I was really young, and it was, the amazing transformation scene it's
Bar
incredible.
none, yeah.
It's done by Rob Bottin, the same guy that did The Thing, along with the EFX crew, which was run by Rick Baker. And a good friend of mine, Kevin Brennan, actually played the werewolf
Cool.
in a lot of the shots, in the Piccadilly Circus shots and stuff like that, during when all the cars and buses are crashing into each other and the wolves running wild in Piccadilly Circus. But this movie, the effects alone really are just It's got John Landis as the director, and the effects are fantastic. We get a little bit of Naked Jenny Agutter, which is
From the director of Animal House. It's a whole nother kind of animal.
Yeah.
Oh, Jenny,
Van
Jenny,
Jackson
Jenny.
on the advertisements. Totally, because I played on Mead Radio.
That's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, this movie is absolutely fantastic. If you guys out there have not seen American Werewolf in London, I pity your soul.
Wolfman here and talk about American Werewolf in London.
It's a great. Oh, I love American Werewolf. You know what's funny? My dad hates horror films. This is one of the few horror films he likes, and I think it's because of John Landis's humor in it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
it's a very humorous, horrifying film.
Yeah, when Griffin Dunn pops up in there like a movie theater, I could not stop laughing. That was just hysterical.
And he just keeps deteriorating. That's kind of funny too. It's like,
he's still so nice though.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And the couple in there, like where the girl is
Hello.
really nice, and like
Nice to meet you.
The boyfriend's very angry. But
It's a pleasure to meet you.
Griffin Dunn is the grossest Jiminy Cricket in cinema history.
Never
Yes.
thought of it that way. Yeah.
that's accurate.
All
Great
right.
movie. Great
Absolutely great movie. Blue Moon. Number 3 on Scribe Light's list. In fact, I just got this in the mail today. The Blob from 1988, the remake starring the kid from Entourage and the dad from Doogie Howser, and
Does it say that on the cover?
friend from that one show.
Yeah.
Starring the kid from Doogie House. No.
No, I mean, this is just this is a no-brainer for me, because when I was a kid and I saw this, the kills and the monster just dissolving people and the horror of seeing, like the guy stuck in the phone booth and suddenly it fills up and he's just, every kill in that thing was just so gross and horrifying, and you could just see yourself there. The only thing I liked is that the guy who was like the boyfriend was like the greaser. You always kind of imagine those guys as being like the villain or the jerk, but he was actually a good guy, which was kind of a twist.
I was trying to think.
Kevin,
of his name.
Kevin Dillon. Yeah, Kevin Dillon.
Entourage, the older brother.
Yeah, and there's so many. The thing I like the most, I don't want to give it away, but the ending was downbeat and suggestively apocalyptic. And I just love that when movies don't try to give you necessarily an entirely happy. There was like a little hint. It could have been sequel bait, but it didn't need to be.
Which I don't think it ever got one either.
No, and it really doesn't need it. It really doesn't need it. But yeah, and the effects, the physical effect, just amazing. I mean, there's this. I mean, I don't know if there might have been like 1 or 2 portions of stop motion at the very end, but as far as I can tell, most of the effects were done practically.
I think there was some puppetry and stop motion, some other things. But
Yeah.
very well blended. And what you have here is the director of Nightmare on Elm Street 3, and you have Frank Darabont as the writer.
Yeah.
And you have, like you said, kind of a semi-decent cast. I'm trying to remember the one chick's name. She was a friend on one TV show. I can't remember the sitcom, but like she's the one main chick. But like, yeah, it's kind of a weird cast of B-level actors, but it works for the movie. And it's one of the reasons why when people bitch about remakes and shit, I'm like, remakes don't always have to be bad. We had quite a few remakes in the 80s when they actually had very creative people working on them. In fact, there's a lot of people who would argue like Little Shop of Horrors, The Blob, The Thing. I could think of a handful more remakes. Scarface, The Fly, all better than the original, kind of.
Yeah,
if you think about
most
it.
of them were.
Yeah. And see, and when did they come out? They all came out during the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah. The best era for film, man.
Yeah. The Fly, The Blob, The Thing. Yeah.
Generally speaking, there had been a 30 to 40 year gap between the originals and the remakes, whereas now they remake things like they're less than 5 years or 10 years
kidding.
old.
Yeah.
There's no
Yes,
sense.
people
it's hard
nowadays-
to, go ahead.
A lot of people nowadays consider 5 years to be 40 years.
I was gonna say, believe it or not, though, there was like 30-year gap between like the RoboCop remake and I think the Point Break remake and shit like that. It's crazy, but yeah,
that's rough to think about. I don't like
the
this.
difference there is you had, first of all, and I brought this up point. The difference is like, okay, a lot of people when King Kong 76 came out hadn't seen the original King Kong unless they were old enough to see it in theaters in the 30s or when it was re-released in the 50s. right? Because it very rarely was on television or anything like that. So going to see King Kong in '76 was a new experience for a lot of people. Plus, it's new technology, new special effects, optical effects in comparison, and all that stuff too, with stop motion and whatnot. Compared to us as a generation, we grew up as the video generation, right? We were able to watch these movies over and 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 over again. So like when they decided to remake Ghostbusters or RoboCop, it's like, why? Because we already know the original by heart.
Yeah.
And you're never going to be able to compete with that, especially when you ain't got somebody like Patrick Swayze or Keanu Reeves in it, like in Point Break, for instance.
Yeah.
Or look at Ghostbusters, for fuck's sake. I mean, we don't even need to get into that, but like, no, The Blob is a great example of a good remake. Takes the original concept, takes it to the next level, actually makes it terrifying. What is kind of a joke at that point. I mean, the original Blob, even the sequel is almost like a parody. The original Blob in the sequel, I don't know if you guys have ever seen it. Beware the Blob.
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
It's from the original movie. It's a sequel, but it was like, yeah, it's barely.
The other thing too, you had these remakes being made by people who loved the originals and wanted to improve on it, and not somebody who was doing it for a paycheck or like just as like a side
Toby
gig.
Hooper's
Like,
Invaders from Mars is a good example of that too.
Invaders from Mars. That frog eating scene grossed me out.
The original is kind of quaint, but you watch Toby Hooper's version and you're like, holy shit, is it terrifying? Especially for a young kid to watch.
Exactly.
It's pretty dark. Yeah, It's pretty scary.
But that's exactly when this era come from, or this movie comes from that era, and I agree with you on that one. I'm glad you have it on your list.
Yep.
Sorry, I had to catch my breath there from coughing. Next up, Brian. This one's after Gary's Own Heart, I guess.
So I figured that there had to be at least one bad movie.
Killer Rabbit movie?
One bad monster movie on my list. So this is my favorite bad movie. And
you're trying to say rabbits in large groups are dangerous.
But there's a lot of people say that this movie is so bad that it's good. Now, I'm not one of those people. It's so bad it continues to be bad.
It's just bad.
Oh, Lord.
But those big pointy teeth, those things are vicious. I mean, that's Holy Grail. That's what it's Holy Grail.
I was going to say, the ones in Holy Grail are probably scary.
It's just one of these incredibly campy, unintentionally funny.
It's like Attack of the Killer Tomatoes bad.
Yeah, well, that was my alternative for this list. I couldn't choose. I was finding it hard to choose. I don't know what's less scary, the miniature rabbits or the men in furry rabbit suits. I can't make up my mind which is less scary. One of the other.
I love the noise the Killer Tomatoes make.
I would say, that it's peak bad writing, peak bad special effects, peak.
I'm trying to remember. I have not seen it since I was a kid because I used to play it on TBS all the time.
But if you love cheese,
I was going to say
it's great.
Okay. Attack of the Killer Tomatoes is trying to be satire, obviously. I can't remember. Is this movie trying to be serious and just failing, or is it actual satire? I can't remember.
Think it was trying to be serious.
From my memory, I think it was.
I really do think
definitely it's one of those Mystery Science 3000, Mystery Science Theater 3000 kind of movies.
And it wouldn't have worked if any of them had their tongue in their cheek and tried to play it for fun. The reason that it works at all is because it remains so bad is because they played it so straight.
Okay.
It really is a horrible movie, but endlessly fascinating, I find. I love bad movies.
They played it so straight they were practically bored on the set. I mean, DeForest Kelly looked like he wanted to be anywhere else but
he's in it, yeah. He doesn't even get he's fourth on the bill as well, which is
I know.
But I love it. How many eyes does horror have? The poster is just like really
rabbits everywhere.
Man. It's got the usual crappy with genetic mutation, the mankind messing with nature thing. It's bad, but I find it somehow strangely fascinating.
I'm glad you have it on your list. Thank you for that.
You just see Jeff Goldblum saying they were so busy wondering if they could. They didn't ask if they should.
He would be perfect for a remake of that. They're multiplying, like rabbits. I mean,
this is right up there with Joan Collins and Ants.
No, yeah.
Well, next on the list, too bad Yeah, Toxic Man flew in here so I can yell at him for this one. Cloverfield, a horrible movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Horrible movie.
Yeah.
This movie was so bad that I discovered on the PS5 you could watch things in like 1.5 speed and still hear it. So this was one of those movies that after about a third of the movie, I'm like, fuck, I hate this movie, but I got to finish watching it because I rented it. So I paid for it. I'm not going to, not watch. I watched it in that high speed just so I could fucking finish it because I got so sick of it. And by the end, I was like, oh my God, it didn't get any better. And he's not here to defend it. So fuck him. I mean, the whole movie is predicated on such a stupid premise of, okay, this monster attacks, they get out of town, and this kid thinks this chick might like him.
Right.
They don't even have a relationship, never had a date, might like him, might be into him, risks his and his friends' lives to go save her. In fact, spoilers, they all fucking die trying to save this bitch.
You ever feel like that was stolen from Miracle Mile? Because it always felt to me sort of like a worse interpretation of Miracle Mile. You ever saw
I'll
that
tell
movie?
you what, I was yelling at the screen going, why are you so fucking stupid? Put the camera down
Yeah.
and get the fuck out of town. You were already out of town.
Power of the thing, though. The power of the
Well, he
the
was all
power of
hung up
love.
on
The
the
power of
power
pussy.
of
love.
love.
Yes.
No, it's the power of pussy, right? Like,
Yeah.
And also shaky cam, I got to tell you, I actually got a little
did they
motion
sleep
sickness
together? Okay, well, they weren't dating at all or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't remember. They hadn't had really a relationship yet.
Yeah.
Like, that's all I remember. I'm just like, this is dumb. They're not even like a couple. Like, if they were a couple, I could understand, but like, it was really kind of dumb. They were like meeting for like the second or third time or whatever it was. That's all I remember.
Hey,
All I
maybe
know
he
is
had
I'll
a
never
snapper.
watch it again.
Yeah.
Who said what now? About
Maybe
friends?
she had a snapper.
I like turtle.
weed every day.
Snapping pussy.
Hey,
Sounds like a
Steve.
movie.
Snapper. Well, there's Teeth. Have you guys ever seen Teeth?
Oh, yeah. Oh, man.
The
boy.
porn version.
That would
of
qualify
Cinderella.
for this, but the movie's not a very good movie. It doesn't know what it wants to
Nah.
be. It keeps switching tones throughout the movie. It's like either be a horror
Yeah.
movie or be a comedy. Make up your fucking mind here, because I'll be honest with you, the idea of this is both horrifying and humorous. I get it, but you can't make a movie both. It's got to be one or the other.
Pick a lane.
Yeah, pick a lane, exactly.
When Kevin
but
Smith
anyway.
was good, he could have made Pillow Pants the horror movie.
That's sad thing is Kevin Smith would have made that it's Teeth a better movie probably,
Yeah.
because he would have got the tongue-in-cheek humor of it all.
Like,
Like,
amongst other
for
things.
those who don't know what it's about a chick who finds out she's got teeth in her vagina after she gets assaulted. So then she uses that to go out and lure guys in and kill them.
I'm pretty sure there was a porn parody of Snow White or Cinderella that had that in it too.
Oh, wow.
I'm pretty sure the snapping
Moving on.
pussy-
Andy is next on the list, and he has The Thing.
Hey,
Number 5 or number 3.
that's my number one.
All right, so well,
Yeah.
I think was it on somebody else's list too, I think? Or am I missing? I can't remember.
It may have been on mine.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think it was on yours too, Gary.
Yeah.
But all right, so who wants to take it first? I guess it's you, Andy, since it's your list.
I mean, what can you criticize about The Thing? I mean, it's an absolutely perfect movie. It's terrifying. It's disturbing. The special effects are groundbreaking. Everything about this movie is just like it's nightmare fuel. Which I really love showing it to my son when he was probably a little too young.
Oh
because
shit!
I scared the living shit out of him, but he loved it. So yeah, great movie. My favorite line in the whole thing is he's like, I know you gentlemen are a little bit preoccupied, but if you don't mind, I don't want to spend the rest of this winter tied to this fucking couch.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh,
I
shit.
just have visions of Andy tying his son like in A Clockwork Orange. What you're gonna watch this movie with it like
You're gonna like it.
Malcolm McDowell.
And look who stumbles his way in here, drunk as a skunk. Toxic Man Flu.
Yes, literally hobbling to the computer
Yes.
to do
How you
this.
doing,
Um,
sir?
You've got no legs. How can you hold
Yeah.
it?
He doesn't. That's true.
He doesn't.
Hey,
I slipped
Lieutenant
disc
Cox.
on Friday, so it was an
Ouch.
interesting weekend.
Well, we just got past yours, and I shat all over your Cloverfield pick.
Oh, the Cloverfield thing? Yeah. Yeah. You know, I do want to say that I selected that film because of the probability that it would trigger you.
Fucking J.J. Abrams production, man.
That's what friends are.
I'm like, hey, what's a JJ film that? Ooh, Cloverfield. All right.
All right. Anyway, we're talking about The Thing now. Fuck your Cloverfield.
Good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thing is good.
I think Gary, go ahead if you want to talk about it next.
Oh man, The Thing is it's so many different creatures and different monsters. You know, the whole concept of that was again created by Rob Bottin. And his whole idea was that this thing had been around the galaxy for probably tens of thousands of years and just collecting the DNA of everything that it's ever encountered and finally ended up on Earth. So that was the basic idea. That and probably getting really fucking baked all the time and making the monsters. I don't know if you guys have seen Rob Bottin in interviews, but you know, he's an absolute genius, but he doesn't come off that way, you know. You got your hand like in the puppet, right? And you control it like this, right? That's Rob Bottin.
Well, what's funny is, didn't he get started when he was like real young, like straight out of high school or something like that?
Probably. I know one of the first projects that he worked on was American Werewolf in London.
Yeah, I was gonna say he was like really super young when he got started.
Yeah,
if I remember
but he's
right.
very creative and imaginative. He's the most talented creature designer I've ever seen. Most unique and talented one.
All right. And who else had this on their list?
Oh, I had it as my number one.
Oh, go ahead, Scribe, then. Take it away.
I mean, watching the behind the scenes making of and everything really gives me a better appreciation for the production in general, because unlike a lot of movies, and especially a horror movie, they had 2 weeks of rehearsal up in that location, the whole cast. And so the cadence and the tempo of their relationships before they even get on camera have already been established. And so you get that sense without a whole lot of exposition that these guys have been around each other for a while. There's that sort of unspoken sense of camaraderie, even with all the little personal conflicts. And that just adds so much to the whole theme of the thing, of mistrust, especially people you know. These aren't strangers. These are people that you know for sure. And so that, and every character in there is so well established, even if they're only on, I mean, like Windows, he doesn't have a whole lot to do in the movie, but he's just, they established that with the camaraderie and the dialogue. It's just so well done. Mm-hmm. And then, like Gary was saying, the monster designs. I mean, there are details to those things that I didn't even realize till years after the fact. Like my favorite is the blossom. When they're going in there and they're having to shoot the dogs and everything, and that big like tentacle blossom thing comes out. And I didn't understand this at the time. The blossom is made of dogs' tongues and teeth that the thing had just absorbed and replicated it for the sake of making this appendage. And I was like, who thinks like that? And then you watch Rob Bottin in the documentary, like, oh, I see now, because the guy's an absolute. I mean, he comes across as such a doofus, but he's just so focused. And when they talk about the kind of insanity,
he thinks in an alien way, exactly.
Yeah. And just the amount of detail and the things you learn about it after the. I could go on for hours. It's like I say, it's on my top of my list, so I don't have to say anything when we get to mine. But it's great. I love it.
All right. Moving along then, next up, let's see where we at here. Andy's was number so we're on mine now, I think. My number 3, since Gremlins is kind of a Christmas movie, I figured I got to put Gremlins 2 on there, because Gremlins and Gremlins 2 is a movie that's just as good as the original, if not better in some ways, but you also have to have the original for it to make sense. It's a hilarious romp. It's a movie that didn't have, it didn't give a shit. Said, fuck whatever happened before. We're going to make fun of it all, and we're going to have fun doing it. And Joe Dante said, I'm going to take all of Warner Brothers' money, and I'm going to make a Looney Tunes cartoon. and if you haven't seen the Key and Peele skit about the making of Gremlins 2, I suggest you check it out after the show, because it's brilliant. I mean, Gremlins 2 is just so much fucking fun. You get all the different kind of goofy gremlins from the genetic mutations, and Rick Baker did an excellent job of reimagining the Gremlins this time around, which is not something I'm generally a fan of, and I don't like the design as much as I like the original design, but I mean, I got to give them credit for adding some more to their looks while still keeping them in line with the original. I'm curious what Gary thinks about the changes that Rick Baker made to Chris Walas's Gremlins, but yeah, other than that, I'm curious also to hear if you guys enjoy the film or not. Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, you know, I like the original movie better, but Gremlins 2 is like a totally, you know, methed out version of Gremlins. You know, it goes to the extreme. There's so many different Gremlins. I mean, you know the shot at the end when they're all like in the building. There's hundreds of puppets that are all like moving around at the same time, and it's all real. They're all actual creatures being puppeteered.
I heard they were pulling like people out of the Warner Brothers offices and stuff and saying, "Here, I'm giving them like each a puppet on a hand and a head puppet. Go and get in there."
Yeah, so I love Gremlins 2 because it's almost like a copy of a copy. It's kind of like almost a parody of itself.
It's self-aware of itself too at the same time.
Yeah, and I love that Christopher Lee's like injecting the Gremlins with all these chemicals and turning them into bats and spiders and shit, and it's super crazy and way fucking out there. And it's
what's this? Rabies. I've got rabies. I'm supposed to get the flu next week.
Yeah, it's a
slice of life.
It's a great movie. It really is. And the creatures. The Gremlins are super. The Gremlins terrify me. I like since I was a little kid. I saw this movie when I was little. I was like maybe 5, 6 years old, and I used to have nightmares about these things. Like, you know, I'd be in a car or something, trapped in a car, and these things are eating at the, you know, oh fucking no way, man.
The Spaz Gremlin. Okay, here's the sad part, guys. I know all their names. Okay, the Spaz Gremlin is actually, his name is Daffy. He's the one with the googly eyes.
Mm-hmm.
The grumpy one is George. His doofy friend is Lenny. And Mohawk is the one that has that everybody always thinks is Stripe again, but it's not, because Mohawk has a scaly, like dragon style, like Batwing kind of thing on his head, as opposed to Stripe, who had hair, a streak of hair still. And then you have the Bat Gremlin, you have Greta the girl Gremlin, you have the Vegetable Gremlin, the Electric Gremlin. Let me see here. The Brain Gremlin.
Yeah, I was about to say, who did Tony Randall play again?
Yeah, is the Brain Gremlin. I'm sure I'm missing at least 3 because there's plenty more. But there was another Flasher Gremlin. Yes.
yeah.
There was the tattoo one who had the Warner Brothers tattoo.
Yeah. Yes.
There's plenty of them in that one, but yeah.
It's hilarious too. It's way funnier than the first.
Did I say the vegetable one? I think I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like him. He's funny because he comes out of the salad bar.
Yeah. Bob Picardo marries the girl one at the end.
Yeah, he's just like
the fucking
the spider. Well, yeah, Mohawk turns into the Spider Gremlin. I did forget about that.
Yeah.
Well, the Bat Gremlin becomes the Gargoyle. Yeah. And then, of course, you got Dick Miller, who's back, who we thought died in the first film. But if you pay attention at the end of the movie, if you listen very closely, the same reporter from The Howling that Joe Dante has in Gremlins says that the Futtermans almost died, but they survived. So they
interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, if you catch it in the background, and he's saying it on the TV. So it wasn't something they retconned. A lot of people think they retconned it. It was like, no, they did get away. But yeah, no, I love Gremlins. As far as Gremlins goes, I'm probably just as much about those as I do Critters. So
I'd recommend
series. I can't recommend it at all, but yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm not going to give it away, but I'd recommend anybody who loves Gremlins 2 look up the Red Letter Media pitch for Gremlins 3. It's only about 5 minutes. It's only about 5 minutes long, and it's absolutely hilarious and perfect.
I have to check that out, but I have my own pitch. Oh, the Phantom Gremlin. That's right. The one that got the vat of acid that says
right. That's right.
I forgot about him. Yes, and Hulk Hogan breaking the fourth wall, and they had John Wayne in the video version. It was funny because when I saw it in theaters, the way the film burns up before the Gremlins come on screen, people thought the film had broke.
Yeah.
So like half the audience started getting up and groaning because they're like, so like, well, fuck it, might as well go get some popcorn and take a piss. Well, and all of a sudden these gremlins pop up in their shadows or whatever, so everybody started laughing. It was really fun seeing it in the theater. What was really weird is like half of my family ended up showing up without even knowing it, like other cousins and uncles and aunts and stuff. So it was really weird. It's like a whole family thing. But all right, so let's see what you guys are saying in the chat now that we've come around to this point in the show. Christian Delorme says, speaking of great busts, Elvira just turned 72 last month.
Oh
Yeah, and she's only been a
God.
lesbian for what, 10 years now?
So
I thought it was like
Christian,
10 months.
Those are not meant for you, Christian.
I think she's been a lesbian a lot
Hands
longer than
off
she
them.
says.
72.
70? Is she really that old
Wow.
already?
Is that
You know, when
inches?
I read this, I think about that meme of the Chinese guy that says wood, and they're all beating him up. You know, that's my response. I would.
Well, I think she just hit a point where she's had just about every type of dick she could probably had. So, you know, I haven't tried the other yet.
And then along comes.
What's that? Oh, yeah.
Oh, dear.
Want a Bud Light? Can I take you out for some Bud Light? And then Patrick
365 of being a lesbian.
Patrick James sends in $10. Thank you so much, Patrick. Been very generous tonight. Said I would so watch a proper scary remake of The Deadly Mantis. There you go. First B flick I watched at a drive-in as a youngling with my family. Think I was like 9. See, and that's what guys like Joe Dante and John Carpenter especially, and I'm sure I'm missing a few. They did a really good job in the 80s with taking a lot of those movies. Tobe Hooper, like we brought up with Invaders from Mars. They took a lot of those goofy, kind of weird sci-fi films from the 50s that were treated like shit, right? Like, it's not the movie's fault. They had great concepts, but the studios didn't give them any money to make them, right? Like, they were made on next to nothing budgets. But then in the 80s, they gave them a shit ton of money to make The Fly and Invaders from Mars and all that kind of stuff, to where they were really well done films. And I think that's a great idea. Take a lot of those older films and do that. Just don't do the Keanu Reeves thing with The Day the Earth Stood Still. Don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Keep it in line with the original.
Well, Ghost House tried to do that a bit with like House on Haunted Hill and House of Wax and all that, but those were depending, hit or miss. So
those
they
too
have
much in
attempted.
the wake of Scream, I think, though, because that was one time where, and this is where Andre and I get into this whole debate about Scream. Real quick, I'll keep it as succinct as I can, but basically, I like Scream. He doesn't. But I say the problem I had with Scream is that Hollywood didn't learn the right lessons from Scream, right? Usually when somebody makes a Scream, a movie like that is like, okay, the audience is aware of the rules. Now we have to turn them on their head. That's what Scream is trying to say. Instead, the studios are we'll just make a bunch of movies like Scream.
Right.
You know, like no, you need to make not movies with self-aware teenagers. You need to make better horror films. And I don't think they figured that out again until like Final Destination. Right? Like, even though that looks like a Scream clone on its surface, once you get into the movie, it's like, okay, now we're back to what these movies should be. And the rules have been thrown out the window now. Because now you actually have death itself coming after these kids, and you have no idea how it's going to get them, right? Like, that's the thing, is before they had a monster they could run away from and all that kind of business, or outsmart. You can't outsmart death. You can't outsmart something you can't see. You can't outsmart something you can't reason with. All that kind of business. That's the first time I'd seen a movie post-Scream that finally treated the audience and its characters smarter than the movie itself. And that was the problem, I think, with Scream afterwards. Every movie had these characters that were, they were self-aware that they were in a horror movie, but they still made the same stupid fucking mistakes.
Right.
And the movies were just the same kind of clones. But yeah, anyway. Shum says, says Yellow Flash is upset Godzilla 98 isn't on that poll. I thought about putting it on there just for Yellow Flash. I did. Jason Webster says, once dated a woman that looked like Sadako, the Ringu girl.
From the
God.
ring. Oh, jeez.
Wow. Wake up and screaming all the time, or I bet the sex was wild, though.
And then 7 days later.
Keep this thought in mind. It may come on the list here, Equalizer. In fact,
That's a good one.
I think it might come up sooner than later. And I was waiting for Dracula to pop up on this list. Dracula, Coppola's Dracula from Gary, and I'd have to admit that this is one of my favorites as well. I'm glad somebody had it on their list. Excellent film.
Yeah, I'm not gonna no disrespect to Lugosi, but I mean Gary Oldman is so impressive in this role, and the multiple stages of him is different. Like he's a giant bat. He's that weird, extremely old guy with the tits on his hair. Like he's the younger version of himself. He's the wolf version. It's really impressive to me. I really like the
that hot redhead giving me a boner when I was 12 in the theater.
Lucy was hot.
That was awkward.
Yeah. Not the wolf, Lucy. But
no.
Yeah. Want to clarify.
It's when I figured out I was a furry.
I'm not into dogs. This movie. It was really Oldman. It was really Gary Oldman that sold it for me.
What's hilarious is he did the whole movie drunk.
Oh, I'm sure more than that. But I happen to have one piece from Coppola's Dracula.
What's that?
Yeah, I don't think that this was. Let me see if I can get it to focus here. I don't know if it was used in the film, but it's actually it's a Vlad the Impaler coin.
Oh, neat.
Wow. Get it to focus.
See, and that's what I loved about Coppola's version is that he combined the Dracula story with the myth or legend of Vlad. That's what I love about his version. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember where I got this, but I may have got it from one of the guys that worked on the production. But it was plastic, and I made a wax casting of it, and it's bronze now, so it's an actual real coin.
You can buy vampire whores with that, I hear.
No.
Yeah, well, I haven't done that yet, but I wonder how many I could get for this. What do you think?
That's a lot. That's worth a lot.
Maybe a threesome. All right, that's cool.
Oh yeah, it's definitely like threesome level.
Yeah,
I hear they suck.
Good one.
With his wives.
I don't know if this movie is on any of your guys' list, but
it isn't. But
impressive.
It is a great film, and like I said, I love how Coppola combines the two stories, and I think that's what makes it unique outside of the performances, like you said. I even give Keanu and Winona a pass in this movie. They're not the greatest performances of their careers.
No.
Yeah. Oh, come on, I completely bought Keanu as an English.
A young English gentleman.
Business gentleman. Yeah, it's completely.
I'm here to sell you an abbey.
Dude, like
not a girl, but it's this place in England.
Whoa. In all fairness, his accent was better than Kevin Costner's.
Yes.
Yes.
Because Kevin, like 1 minute he's got it, the next scene he don't. The next,
so
it may be bad, but at least it's consistent.
It is consistent. That is very true.
Just play a bit more Bryan Adams, nobody will notice.
No.
My God, old man. The horrors are everywhere. Anyway.
If only.
Shit. I love that movie. I've seen it quite a few times, yes. Moving on, movie. As I teased, Tremors, Scribe has that as his number 2.
Yep.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it's a perfect movie. I mean, it's setting everything else aside, the characters, the writing, the dialogue, the pacing, everything about that is absolutely perfect. And even though it's as much a sort of comedy buddy adventure movie at the same time, there are real scenes of tension. That part where they're on the rooftops and they're trying to hide from making any vibrations and thing. It just everything about it's great. The only flaw is that one bit of really bad stop motion, badly optical green screen part in the basement of the Survivalists. Other than that, and that always takes me out of it. That's the one thing that I just go, but I just kind of squint. I kind of close my eyes when I know that's coming. Just like, don't imagine that's there.
I never had much of a
move
problem with it, but
yeah. There was one thing, but other than that, like I say,
I didn't even think I knew it was an optical and a miniature, whatever puppet thing until I saw the making of it or whatever on DVD.
I just think of it like this. There's an old saying that every artist has to put at least one intentional flaw into their work to avoid, not to offend God with perfection. So if that's it, that's it. But otherwise, perfect
Well,
movie.
I
Kevin
think that
Bacon,
also kind of plays into the B monster movie kind of
little
feel
bit.
of the film. Also,
Little
it is basically Jaws on land, and I mean the writers even kind of admitted that.
Well, okay, but I still love it.
Oh no, I totally love it too. It's a great film. It didn't wind up on my list, but I seen Gary perk up when it come up. I know this
Oh
is
yeah, I didn't even think of that one. That's a great creature design too.
It
It's a
is an
great
excellent one.
monster. Yeah.
Oh yeah, very unique, and yeah, and it's a very great adventure, great humor,
Yeah.
great tension, and all the characters, even though they're all like just basically only on screen, they only get a very little bit of backstory. The relationships, again, you just have this real sense of communities. People have lived with each other, and you end up
Right.
caring about them because the main characters care about them and they're familiar.
Yeah.
And that's what you really need with a horror movie or a monster movie. In some ways, you have to have some sympathy for the characters. You want them to survive the monster or beat it.
Of course.
Well,
and you
and this-
know,
oh,
I
go
didn't
ahead.
even think about this, but it's actually scarier than Jaws because none of us live on the water.
Right.
You know?
Yeah,
It is in a lot
exactly.
of ways, like especially like the way it opens, and you've got that great, like I mean, basically the equivalent of what would be, the Chrissy character in the car, and then you have the guy who's up on the pole before we even actually see
Right.
what this thing is that's doing this. Like those alone are a lot like Jaws in a sense that we don't understand what this thing is that's doing this, and then we're learning along with the characters. And like you said, though, it is a lot more scarier because they have nowhere they can go. Right? Like they can't get away from it. Then no matter what they do, as high as they get, whatever they do, they can't get away from it. And I love it. It's a great film from the guys who wrote Short Circuit, believe it or not.
Oh wow. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez. Know that.
And Equalizer brought up in the chat, it had double that, sir. It had like 6 straight to video sequels.
Oh yeah. Oh, it had a whole like
I'm not
shared
kidding. There's been
universe
7
stuff.
of those
Yeah.
movies now.
Yeah, they went back in time. They had walking graboids.
and
It
a
was all
series.
nuts. Yeah,
And a
Michael
series that never got
Michael
picked
Gross
up.
paid for his entire retirement with just those sequels. He just did all of them.
And the TV series, and they had a series that never got picked up.
Yeah.
Great.
I
flick,
love that
though.
they never tried to explain the monsters.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
they kind of
Well,
did.
they did theories. Yeah, they did
just
theories and
is
stuff.
all
Like,
it is, yeah.
yeah, she was like, the scientist lady was like, well, maybe they were woken up by like seismic activity and they were like, pre-dinosaurs. But I mean, just like the original Night of the Living Dead, they give you some theories as to where they came from, but they don't give you a flat-out
A
answer. and it's
definitive
perfectly
answer.
fine.
That's good.
No, and the fact that they evolve in the sequels really kind of gives you an idea, even though they evolve a little too much too fast in the sequels. But I also love that they kind of have this idea that it's just like they were always there, right?
Yeah.
They were just they just kind of made their way up, and it's just this ancient horror, like this thing that's always been around.
Yep.
But yeah,
Good
great
one. Good
flicks.
choice. Yeah.
Good flicks. There was something else I was going to say about them too, but I forgot. But anyway, Brian bringing the weird shit to the table. The day of the tribute.
Hey, there you go. Happening.
And unlike the third one, I'm not in tongue in cheek about this one. This one I actually love. I thought it was time we had for the vegetarians in the audience, we had a plant-based monster.
Yeah.
I think, rather than carnivore, flesh and blood. So the Day of the Triffids, which truly scared the shit out of me when I saw it on television at about the age of about 5 or 6 years old in the late 1960s or early 70s. I can't remember exactly when. So this was the scariest thing I'd ever seen, and it is. These plants are pretty freaking vicious, I mean, and there's a lot of them. So I just love that the of course they did have the conceit that most people were now blinded because of this meteor shower, so they were easy prey to these plants, but they're basically taking over the earth. I did swither a bit whether this was science fiction or horror. But I thought, you know what, they're pretty monstrous plants. Imagine, the plant from Little Shop of Horrors, but hundreds of millions of them. so I thought it was a worthy entry into the monster canon, albeit it's plants. And the only thing I don't kind of like about the movie is the ending, because I think it's a little bit too easy to defeat them at the end. But other than that, nice classic tight British science fiction horror movie from the 60s. Love it.
I love a good revenge flick, and when it's going after the vegans, it's even better.
That's right. Yeah, it's a great
That's
little
all I
movie.
have to say about that.
Casting was a bit weird though, because Howard Keel, who played the lead, was more known for Broadway musicals and things like that. But hey, there you go.
All right. Well, then, Tox, your number 2 pick was Pacific Rim Job. Weird choice.
Really?
But it's a monster movie.
Oh, Pacific Rim. My bad. I was thinking of the porno parody.
Oh, the rim job thing. Well, I was thinking of Brian.
Oh, well, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's 70s.
When I think of rim
fan.
jobs, yeah, that's the first person I always
I
think
was
of.
thinking, Toxic, you might have mentioned the porn version of Tremors, Knee Tremblers.
Knee tremblers, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. No. That goes to that sports porn we did, knee pads. That was, it was a wrestling film, about two guys that met on the wrestling mat. Oh, anyway. Then they
I
started
didn't know
eat,
that was the porn parody of Tremors. Now, Ass Blasters, the sequel, makes so much more sense.
Yeah, Max the Ass Master, 1, 2, and 3. Pacific Rim. When you come, I like the big monster films. I mean, monster films don't necessarily have to be horror. They could be aliens trying to invade us and stuff and things like that. So, I enjoyed Pacific Rim. I thought it was pretty good.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Brian and Sheep there for a minute with alien invasions.
You bastard.
That's true. That's Alien Insemination. I think that was the name of the film.
Oh,
anyway, sorry about that. Yeah, this is one of my favorite films I like to watch. It's pretty mind-numbing. I don't have to think a whole lot about it. That's how I like my
robots
entertainment.
fighting big monsters. Where can you go wrong with that?
Yeah, when it first came out, it was really cool, and to see it in the big screen, saw it with the family, and we had a good time. So I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I like it. I don't hate it. I've never seen the sequel. I think I have it, but
I mean, it's no Cloverfield, but
oh, it's better than Cloverfield.
And all the monsters look better than that Cloverfield monster.
Oh God, yes.
Yes, all of them. Oh, that was so bad. I could have. What was the other one he did with the train and all that stuff?
8mm.
8mm. Yeah, I could have put 8mm up there.
No.
Or Star Trek. Those were all monsters.
We don't need to know about the size of your thing, Toxic.
Oh, sorry about that. There we go.
Heyo.
Heyo.
That's right.
Heyo.
If anybody should know, 70s, if I want any lip from you, I'll peel it off my zipper.
Hey!
Yes. There's the grade school humor right there.
Give a little DNA, take a little.
He's got the block and tackle and the. Yeah, it was the best part of Something About Mary, and then. Yeah.
Twigs and berries.
He's got the Franks and beans and it. Oh.
Franks and beans, yeah.
Frank the beans.
How the hell did you get the beans above the Frank?
Yeah. And then Andy had American Werewolf in London, which we've already talked about, but I don't know if you wanted to say anything more about it real quick. But I think
a werewolf movie.
Yeah, I think you already covered it.
Good
So
movie.
there you go. And then my number 2 pick, and this is one that I said, hang on to that thought on King Kong because I knew once Tox got here, it'd come up again. So Tox, I'm let you go first since this was on your list and you get a chance to talk about it yet. King Kong, the original 1933 classic. Go ahead. Just
classic monster movie. Just like Godzilla, King Kong, Mighty Joe Young, it was on my list too. It was part of the fabric of theater, of going to seeing a film, seeing the monster movies. This is my mother, when she would go and see films with her mom, they would see them all. So the thing that scared her the most was the movie Them, which was about the giant ants. And when the leg came over the mountain, so here she is. And I look at that movie now, this King Kong movie now, and you're like, oh, well, that's definitely, stop motion and things are doing. You can tell it's not like the CGI and stuff we have now. But to somebody sitting in the theater in 1933, they had the same feeling as we did when we sat in at Star Wars in 1977, even though you had 40, 50 years worth of advancements in filmmaking.
You're right, because people actually thought they had a real ape.
They did.
Fighting a lizard or whatever in a miniature set. That's what they thought that they were watching.
That's what they thought it was going on. And it just, one of the classic movies of all time. You can tell how good it is by how many times it's been remade.
Yep.
Right. You had the one in the 70s where you wanted to go climb the Twin Towers, and all that kind of stuff. And it's just, what a great film. What a great cast at the time. I mean, yeah, Fay Wray, the whole 9 yards. Just one of the best films of all time. Has to be there.
Yeah, I
Whatever
agree with you.
happened to Fay Wray?
I know what.
She faded away.
Yeah. And that satin laced dress. I wanted to be dressed just the same.
Well, in the end, the thing about this movie that got me is you felt really sorry for King Kong.
'Twas beauty that killed the beast.
When
Yeah.
King Kong died, everybody cried.
Right?
Nobody cry when Jaws die. People gonna cry when King Kong die.
That's right.
For those who don't know what he's doing, it's the Dino De Laurentiis. When he remade King Kong, that was his whole bit. Was when that Kong die, everybody gonna cry.
And they did.
Yeah, no, I agree with you wholeheartedly, Tox. As you said, probably the second most influential, if not first most influential film of all time, right up there with Star Wars and Citizen Kane. I can't see how you can't mention this film because it is the granddaddy of so many different genre films today. Like you said, the first big special effects film where people were just in awe, and the studio went along with it. Like they did not want to tell people what they really did. They played it up in the press as far as like all the lies and stuff.
There was magic when this film,
yeah,
right? And that's the magic in the theaters. This is the golden age, and all that stuff started. You had all of these great films happening around this time. There are so many, just the serial films that were going on. The studios were just cranking out just so many good movies during this time. Scarlet Pimpernel came out during this time, another remake of a remake, and it just, what a man. I would have, if I could go back in time, if Jennifer Lawrence could take me back in time with her to make this film.
Well, she did star in this movie.
I would love to see it. She was in the.
She was
Gorilla
Kong.
She turned it down.
Right.
For,
She was Kong.
She was
Yeah, she
Kong.
was Kong. Yeah, she was the first
Yeah.
Kong.
It was the first Kong. But what a great film. As you say, Tom, it spawned so many other movies.
yeah, I mean, it made monster movies, and like I said, the people that were inspired to make things like Jaws and Star Wars. King Kong is one of their go-to films. Like Spielberg directly says that one of the films that made him want to get into movies was Kong, as a lot of the guys in his generation who didn't have Star Wars to grow up on. But I mean, yeah, that's the second movie most of them will mention. Because I said the movie that I hear the most directors mention was their influence is Star Wars, right? Of that certain age. And then you go to that age group before that and it's King Kong. Kind of basically is like the number one film they usually mention. So yeah, I mean, it's one of those seminal films, and it's definitely in the pantheon of the top 5 most influential films of all time. I'd put it right next to Star Wars, Gone with the Wind, Wizard of Oz, Jaws, King Kong, right there.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But there you go. Or you Godfather if you want to swap that out for Jaws, but whatever.
I would argue that King Kong was more inspirational than Godfather. I mean, Godfather's a work of art.
Yeah, but yeah, I agree with you. It didn't necessarily inspire.
King Kong was an imagination creation.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So Spark. So it was a muse. King Kong is a muse. Godfather is something that you respect as a work of art.
Yeah. Emulate. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you aspire to do what they did, what Coppola did with that.
Yeah.
Whereas with King Kong, that inspires your imagination, inspires people to create.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on here. We've got a few super chats, and we've got another poll in the chat and one on X yet we got to get through. Jason Webster says Gary Oldman's performance as Dracula is the definitive performance of the character. I think it's pretty close. Yeah. I mean, Christopher Lee, and I mean, if there's definitely a Mount Rushmore, it's Christopher
Bela
Lee,
Lugosi.
him, Bela Lugosi, probably
The
two
original
top guys.
Nosferatu was pretty.
And
I mean,
yeah, Max Shrek. Yeah, I agree.
Max Shrek.
There you go.
But that's one of those characters that many people can make their own.
Jason Webster points out that Robert Pattinson, is supposedly the descendant of Vlad Dracula.
No wonder he sparkles.
And he sucks as well. He sucks.
Hey!
Oh,
Definitely acts like he's dead.
that explains why emo too. Yeah.
He played
Shadow
a
of the-
Batman twice.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Shadow of the Vampire is a great movie.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh man.
Yeah, Oldman was really good.
All right, our other last poll on Twitter. Let's finish that one up right now. The best monster mash of them all. The choices were Alien versus Predator, House of Dracula, Freddy versus Jason, and Godzilla versus Kong. This was the tightest of the bunch.
Ooh.
That's what she said.
Mm.
Or he said.
No.
Last place was Alien versus Predator with 15%.
Yeah.
House of Dracula came in second to last with 17%. And as tight could be, in second place, King Kong versus Godzilla came with 31%, and Freddy versus Jason won with 34%. So very, very tight race there. Yeah, Freddy versus Jason took the title though. So
Wow.
there you go, guys.
Hmm.
And then we'll end the poll as we get ready to wrap things up here in the chat. So get in there and vote if you haven't already for your choices as we get into our number one picks now. Scribe Light picked, a movie we've already talked about. John Carpenter's A Thing. So, I mean, you already mentioned it. So there you go. But thank you for that. And then we have, let's see here, The Thing again.
Sorry,
There you
guys.
go.
And I'm noticing a pattern. We'll see that in the chat as well, I think.
The
What was Gary's number one? Did we miss that?
Oh, where is Gary's
Yeah, I think
number
you
one?
skipped it. Well,
He's-
my number one was Jaws, so this would actually be my
Oh yeah,
number
we already
5.
talked about.
Sorry.
No, I got it here. I just must not have downloaded.
Oh, did I reverse his?
No, he did. I think. On
I
Let's
did.
face
That was
it,
my
this
fault.
movie would be top in many lists. Never mind monster or
Where's
Halloween
Gary's
lists.
number one?
Yeah.
As a just a film in general. Like if you were doing a top 50 films, this would be in it.
Yeah.
I don't think you
okay.
sent me Gary's number one. That's why I don't have it.
Oh, maybe I did. It was
Well, I can
Jaws.
tell you guys when you. When
No, it
you're
was the other
ready.
way around. Because so what was the other one then that you had left over?
It was Young Frankenstein.
Okay, so Young
yeah.
Frankenstein. I was gonna say I thought that one come up.
Yeah.
Okay, so you had Young Frankenstein. I don't have the graphic here to bring up. I'm sorry, guys.
It's okay.
That's all right. Tox is fired. He's rehired.
I get that a lot.
And I'll double your pay. So yeah, Young Frankenstein, the Mel Brooks classic, kind of more of a sequel satire than an actual straight up parody of Frankenstein, if you'd say that.
Yes. Yeah, I love all the zippers and things on his face. I actually like Peter Boyle's version way better than Karloff. I love Karloff, but you know, if Frankenstein's on or Young Frankenstein's on, I'm always gonna go with Young Frankenstein. I love that monster design, and I love him. I think he's fantastic in it.
Bride of Frankenstein almost made my list. That was the one that got bumped off. But I do love Young Frankenstein.
She's a great monster. I like that monster.
Well, I just think it's the better of the two films.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, that was my number 5 actually, but yeah. I wrote him backwards. Sorry, guys.
Mel Brooks would be
No,
proud of
It's
you.
one of
right
my
now.
top films. Is Young Frankenstein. So,
Yeah.
I agree with you. It was a great.
I actually have a piece from Young Frankenstein. Would you guys like to see it?
Sure.
All right.
Why not?
Let's see. Here it is, right here.
You had me at peace.
So this is there's one of 2 pieces that are left from the actual Young Frankenstein set. One of them is a piece of stained glass that Gene Wilder threw a dart through, which is owned by the guy who sold me this, and the other is this.
Wow.
This is a gargoyle head of it's actually sculpted from Mel Brooks.
Yes.
And if you look in the Frankenstein's laboratory set, this and a few other similar ones, they're different sculptures, but they're similar to this. They're on the walls throughout the laboratory. This is one of them.
It's awesome.
So,
Wow.
Yeah, there it is, guys.
That
This
is a
entire
wonderful
set. The guy who sold this to me was the guy who struck the set. He was a set striker at 20th Century Fox, and he told me that it was his job to destroy the set, just to tear it down.
Right.
And with the exception of the original Frankenstein equipment, which was borrowed
Right,
from
right.
the original Frankenstein movie, Everything for Young Frankenstein was torn down, and every day he went there to tear the set down, and he said that Mel Brooks and Gene Wilder were there, and they didn't want him to tear the set down, and they didn't want to leave. That's how much they love that movie.
Oh, I can't believe they tore all that down.
You have to. That's what they do. You know, once the project's done,
different production comes in.
They tear the stuff down. But thankfully, the gentleman who sold this to me, he kept this piece. When he went and threw all the stuff away at the Los Angeles dump, he kept that little gargoyle head, and here it is.
Was that next to all of those copies of Atari's E.T.?
Probably, yeah. And future copies of Snow White, the live action.
The live action one.
I can't
Snow
wait
White,
till they
the
dig up
seven
like Hollywood's like landfills in the future and find all the really cool. Like, didn't they just uncover like an old set from like Ben-Hur or no? It was the Ten Commandments.
Possibly.
Did you hear about that? Like they were
No.
digging something up somewhere in the desert somewhere, and they ended up uncovering like a whole set piece and shit from the Ten Commandments. Yeah, it was
Did they
insane.
find 11 through 15?
No,
Oh,
and they'll never find them.
Yeah, you know, for years, Tom, the original Orca boat was sitting on the Jaws ride at Universal Studios.
Yeah, I remember you
And
telling me this.
They
yeah.
just let it sit there, and I think in 1996, it finally was just it had broken in half because it was rotten. They picked it up with a like a forklift, and they threw it in a dumpster and tossed it away.
oh,
Spielberg was furious. He was so pissed.
Yeah, people have been picking pieces off it for a while and stuff like that. I'd heard.
Yeah, I'm sure. But talk about terrible.
Yeah,
I do have one of the shark fins from the original Jaws.
Oh
I
yeah,
was able to save that.
it's awesome. Yeah, and it's funny because yeah. Anyway, let's move along here. I had a thought and then I lost it. Or maybe I'll remember it. Andrew says, love the list format. Long time listener, first time super chatting. Well, thank you, Andrew. Top monster
let's do
movie.
something for that.
Okay.
Yay. And then
We'll be gentle.
this is a punch and a slap for you taking this long to give Tom some money. There we go. Oh, wait, was my mic on? Shit.
Yeah. Top monster movie is Jaws, the film that started the term blockbuster. Technically, you're correct, but the first actual blockbuster, the movie that actually kind of created that idea, was Psycho. I don't know if people realize that.
oh.
I
Because
didn't know that.
Hitchcock
I didn't know that.
I thought it was
Hitchcock
Star
made,
Wars.
well, he made it to where people had to be there before the movie started, or you couldn't get in afterwards. So you literally had people lining up outside the theaters to get into the next showings. So you had people going around the blocks. So that
Wow.
kind of is where that first came from. And then you had movies like The Exorcist, Godfather, Jaws, where there were so many people going to see these movies that there was people literally lined up around the block, and that's where the term blockbuster came into the common vernacular. Yeah.
'Cause I would think Gone with the Wind would be, one of those considered that, but I get what you're saying.
Technically, yes, but also Gone with the Wind was at a time where you kind of pre-bought all your tickets. And
Right.
Gone with the Wind was shown over 2 nights in most places.
That's right. They had an intermission and they did it in 2 nights.
And then Wisconsin was one of the first showings of it, because I remember that, and I can't remember the theater, but I think it was in Baraboo or something like that, or Kenosha, I can't remember which. And yeah, you had to go see it over 2 nights. So you saw the first half the first night, and then you had to come back the second night to see the rest of it.
Wow.
Yeah, because
That's
they
great.
only showed it one night or one time. It did not 10 times a day like they do now. So, yeah. And it still made all that money. It's still technically the biggest seller of all time would be Gone with the Wind, yeah, as far as tickets. Jason Webster says Fay Wray starred in Mystery of the Wax Museum, which was released the same year as King Kong. Yeah, she filmed a lot of movies that year, because she also filmed the movie at the same time they were filming King Kong. I can't remember the name of it, but they used a lot of the same sets and half the cast and all the stuff. And so during the day they would film the one movie, and then or King Kong during the day, and then they film the other movie at night. And then the movie at night was like a little lesser production, so it was just like this little jungle action piece thing. I can't remember what it was called, but
Jungle Cruise.
yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Was it Jungle Fever?
But she actually had a black wig. She had a blonde wig or whatever for the King Kong bit, and then she had her real hair for the other one, which was like a black hair or whatever, or vice versa. I can't remember which. But yeah, I remember they talked about that in the making of King Kong. But yeah, so let's move on then with the list. I remember what I was going to say now before. I recently come across the Young Frankenstein radio ads, and Mel Brooks does them. And he's like,
Oh.
coming soon from Mel Brooks, God bless him, Young Frankenstein. and this is why I wanted to tell the Hitchcock thing, because he goes, nobody will be allowed to see the film after the start. If you're scared easily, watch it in reverse. You won't be scared. Don't give away the middle. Because that was the whole that was the whole thing with Hitchcock, is not to give away the ending of Psycho. Yeah. So it's a big play on all that shit. It's like, yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Don't give away the middle. What a talent. What an absolute talent, Mel Brooks.
Yes, indeed. Speaking of talents, we have Toxic Man Flu coming in at number 1 with Godzilla, all of them.
Every single one that's ever been made. Yeah.
Got 97.
Even that one?
Even then, it's a Godzilla film. You know what? It's the worst of all of them, and that's fine. So, the original Godzilla. I've told this story a little bit, maybe on this channel before, but I would see on Friday nights the local channel, ABC affiliate, would show a episode of Star Trek, a Sherlock Holmes film with Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce, or a Thin Man, or one of those 30s or 40s type film. And then they would show the Plenty Scary movie. And it would be King Kong, Godzilla, them, all that kind of stuff. And the first one I remember is Godzilla with Raymond Burr, the American version. And that's what led me to liking everything about Godzilla. I mean, I have memes. You can't always win. That's Godzilla's job. Those kind of things. But when it comes to monsters and apex predators and all that kind of stuff, it's Godzilla.
Well, this is the reason I didn't put it on my list, because you had your list in before mine. And since you had Godzilla, all of them on it, was like, well, what's the point?
Well, I mean, I could do the original. The Raymond Burr one's the one that got me into this, right? But that's not the original film. And when you watch the original film, and I don't speak Japanese, so it has to be dubbed. When I watch it when it's dubbed, it is a phenomenal film. And it was right after the
slightly different tone than the American version, yeah.
Right. It was slightly different tone. You had, but I mean, they had just gone through a horrible war, which their government had done so many things to them and other people around, and they had these nuclear bombs that were dropped on their country, and they responded to it in many ways, and one of those was entertainment. This fostered a Japanese entertainment industry that's given us so much over the years, in the manga that we've seen, and the cartoons, the anime, and all of that has happened. All pretty much started with this film. And look at what Taito's done forever. I mean, even the recent film. Are they stupendous? No. Are they a giant freaking Godzilla and monsters on the screen? Yeah, that's what I want to see. Why did I like Pacific Rim? Because it was almost all monsters fighting, right? That kind of stuff. So
I like the new Godzilla Kong the best, probably, of the bunch.
I thought that was good.
It was one of the better ones, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was good, and I'm looking forward to the next one and seeing what they do with Kong being bigger.
And a whole nother ape in the mix.
Yeah. I think Tom's starring it as a great white ape.
I am.
So, the guy from Wisconsin. So instead, Tom stores cheese. So.
Give me some cheese curds.
Grape ape.
Here, have some Culvers, and then everybody's happy.
Yeah. No, I love Godzilla. I've got, as far as I know, I've got almost every one of the movies. I don't think I'm missing a single one. I even have a bootleg of the Godzilla 85, because that's the one that's not available, basically, that I know of. Always been a fan like you. Grew up with them on TBS and TNT all the time and stuff like that on cable. I think USA showed them a lot too, once in a while. On Saturdays and Sundays and Friday nights, I think it was, you just could always find the monster movies, Godzilla being just one of them, alongside of the, Bruce Lee and other kung fu films. It was just the kind of stuff that a lot of my Friday, Saturday nights were made up of mixed in with like Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Streets and Pumpkinheads and whatever, they were throwing on syndicated horror films at that time, and it's just, it was a bit of my, growing up. It's a piece of my growing up. So I totally understand where you're coming from.
And it's childhood. Even the little, so you know how I don't like little kids in movies, like Dennis the Menace and the whole Jurassic Park. I hate it because of the kids. So, the baby Godzilla, Godzuki, I thought that he was cute. So there you go, right? It's kind of like a puppy or a cat and Godzuki. If Godzuki were to show up and my neighbor's like, he burned down my house. Well, it's probably your fault. One of those things. And even the stupid stuff where they were doing like the Godzilla versus Kong, the first one, where they were doing that weird jumping up and down thing, and the kung fu fighting and stuff. It was fun.
I was just gonna say, like, I hate like the Godzuki movie more than I do like the '98 Godzilla.
Some people do. People came out and were like, "What the hell is
like
this?"
The least favorite era. To me, it's like, okay, that's the kiddie era or whatever you want to call it.
Right. They were trying to do basically what Disney said they were trying to do with Star Wars, only they were more successful. So.
Well, it's kind of the same thing that happened now more recently with Kong and Godzilla, because they tried making it for adults, and the adults were like, well, we wanted to see the monsters. And they also realized that kids buy these toys.
Right.
Because they love monsters and dinosaurs, and Godzilla versus Kong and all that stuff is the perfect combination of that. So, yeah.
I had a big Godzilla, and I had the Death Star from the original film, right? And Godzilla would always come through because they had Space Godzilla, right? It'd come through, and he would destroy this Death Star.
Tox, was that the Godzilla with the tongue that shot out like flames?
Yes.
Yep. I had that.
Yep. That and the 12-inch GI Joes and all that stuff. Things from there.
And the Shogun Warriors were big too.
Oh yeah, all in. It was good stuff.
Figure wise, besides the Ninja Turtles, I probably have more Godzillas than anything.
I am wearing a Godzilla cat shirt right now. So it's a cat like Godzilla, and I've owned cats. Tortoiseshells, I like them because when they look at you, they look like Godzilla. That's why I like those cats.
That's cute. I never thought of that.
My brother's mother-in-law.
Kids in film, screw those. Yeah.
My brother's mother-in-law, whenever, because she's Okinawan, whenever she would get on his nerves, he would play the Godzilla yell. He said, "Don't make me do it."
Yeah, tortoiseshell cats. Sorry, I'm not tortoiseshells.
Well, and of course, my first pick was, and we already talked about this one, was Jaws.
What a phenomenal film.
So I saved Andy's for last because I thought this was a good one to end on, one we hadn't had already. Frankenstein. Which one are you talking about?
The original. This thing was groundbreaking. That was the thing that started everything off. I remember my dad telling me about seeing that thing in the theater, and it scared the living hell out of him. And everybody that saw it, people were actually running out of the theaters because it was so frightening to them because they'd never seen anything like it before. And movies it's just fabulous. It's like everything about it is even the assistant Fritz is like he's tormenting the monster. He's rotten. He's sneaky. He's like it's hard to find good help, I guess. But yeah, Colin Clive, before tragic story with him. I believe it was alcoholism, and he really went downhill.
You can see he's already pretty rough looking by Bride of Frankenstein.
Yeah, but great movie, great special effects. The people that designed all that stuff were really visionary, and set the tone for so much more that would come later.
Yeah, Andy, when you said people were running out of the cinema screaming, I thought for a minute you were talking about Ghostbusters 2016.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about that when you guys brought up the Blob, but
because of the theater
scene. Ex-wife.
I'm a big fan of the Edgar Winter song Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a great, well, I mean, what a great story. What a groundbreaking story.
Yeah.
Mary Shelley. And then they did back when they, were trying to do a very good job making the film, and they did.
Now, are you guys like me where you kind of consider Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein seriously pretty much the same movie? I mean, they were made less than a year apart. Same cast, picks right up where the finishes off the rest of the novel. I mean, I think that those two are like, I can't watch one without the other. It's kind of, and that's where I was like trying to pick one on the list, but I didn't. It just got knocked off. But yeah,
I'd agree with you on that.
Yeah,
It shows what they did at the time. You know,
the only thing that's different is Frankenstein can talk, but you can just kind of figure, oh, well, maybe he just kind of figured out how to talk by now.
Yeah.
He doesn't say much though.
He doesn't need to. Not really.
She ate me.
Fire bad.
Fire bad.
Yeah.
What's funny is they made them.
Why did you make me married?
Yeah.
Yes.
No one's married.
They kind of made it worse.
Frankenstein want divorce.
When the movie came out, because you guys were talking about people being so just disturbed by the film, they actually had to cut it after I can't remember if it was after its first run or first few weeks, and they cut a couple things out. One, of course, they cut out is they can no longer have him say, now I know what it feels like to be God. They have that drowned out by thunder in the original version, and that wasn't changed until more recent years. And the other thing was Frankenstein throwing the little girl in the lake. The way it was cut, though, almost makes it more gruesome in a way, because you don't see what actually happens. You don't know if Frankenstein did it to be mean. You don't know if it was like you see it as it is in the movie. You understand it's Frankenstein not understanding until it's too late what he has done, and that's kind of like, to me, it cuts out the context of that whole thing. And that's the version I saw as a kid too for the longest time, until I saw the video version where they restored it all again. But no, and then of course Bride of Frankenstein is just my personal favorite, just because it finishes off the story. You got Dr. Pretorius, or however you say his name, who's clearly gay and very flamboyant, extremely into his work, and what's her face playing the Bride of Frankenstein is beautiful and scary at the same time. What was her name? Sorry.
Elsa Lanchester.
That's right. Yeah, I was gonna say she has that weird name, and very busty woman. And I thought it was very well done, and the sequel is almost a little slicker than the original one. It almost feels like now we know what we're doing, and it just feels just a tad bit slicker. And it's funny because you were talking about young Frankenstein earlier, Gary. The stuff they used was actually from Bride of Frankenstein, not the original Frankenstein, because I believe the original stuff was trashed and they had to rebuild it all for Bride of Frankenstein. Because I remember in the making of it, they talk about it. It's all the stuff.
Hear that? I
think it's all the stuff that's left over from Bride, not the original. But yeah,
okay.
But they were made less than a year apart, so yeah.
Wow, that's wow. That means that stuff really is gone.
Oh yeah, I think so. I mean, you can double check on that, but I was pretty sure from the making of it or the commentary, I remember them saying that that it was stuff from Bride of Frankenstein, actually. But yeah.
Yeah, well, that Kenneth Strickfad and all those devices he built. I guess he used to.
I'm sure they may have repurposed some of them too, but yeah, I don't know.
Oh, I'm sure. I guess he originally got he got the job because he was doing sideshows at circuses with those pieces of equipment that he built. That was his original gig.
There you go.
Stuff. Yeah.
Good one to end on. Yeah, a great monster. Even though he was originally human of sorts. Brain comes from Abby, somebody named Abby.
Abby something.
Abby and you won't be angry.
Abby normal.
Abby normal. Yeah.
You brought me an abnormal brain.
I love that part. He's like, and you won't be angry. And he's like, I will not be angry.
Jam your eyes.
Too
Oh
late.
man.
Yeah.
It's the best.
What
The best.
knockers?
And yes, the movie I was thinking of that was being shot simultaneously with King Kong with the same director and a lot of the same cast was The Most Dangerous Game. That's correct. Ace Hanlon says, what is everyone's honorable mentions? Oh, good question, Ace Hanlon. So yeah, as we're wrapping this up here, we've got the poll in the chat, and let's do an honorable mention as I'm doing that portion of the business.
I think one of the coolest looking monsters is Pumpkinhead. I thought that was really
Rick Baker. Or no, was it not Rick Baker?
Stan Winston. Right?
Stan Winston. Yeah, that's because
so
he directed the original
movie.
too.
I'd say an honorable mention would be Fluffy from Creepshow.
Yeah.
The crate monster.
And not only that, the bat gargoyle monster thingy from Tales from the Dark Side, the movie.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was called, but that thing was pretty badass.
The Crypt Keeper, that's another honorable.
The Crypt Keeper is a great one. He even made the intro, which I'll play again at the end here. Yeah, there's so many great ones. I almost put Chucky on the list too. I'm like, does he count as a monster or is it a?
Sure, I think
I should have, but that's the thing. The top 5. That's the toughie part of it. Yeah, and Audrey 2 almost made my list as well.
Yeah,
sucks. Yeah. You have to get down to 5. So that would be some honorable mentions. Anybody else got any?
I almost put the pod people from Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yeah,
just because I love the 56 version, 79, and but it was just the side of it. It's a bit too sci-fi. Same argument that I didn't put The Fly on there because that was more sci-fi. I mean, the monster comes at the end, obviously, and so you could say Jeff Goldblum turns into the monster, but it wasn't a monster movie in that same sense. I don't think so. But
it's more of a
splitting
monster.
hairs.
Yeah, even the original is a body horror film. Just
exactly.
So, I mean, they both work in that respect. It's like a man turning into a monster.
Yeah.
So it's very much like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of kind of story. Yeah, which is another one that could have been an honorable mention of sorts. Another OG classic. Definitely inspiration for things like the Hulk down the road, and many others. Anyone else? Anything else anybody can think of before we get to the?
Maybe some of the Puppet Master puppets.
Oh
Those are kinda cool.
Yeah.
Well, I think classic at 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Somebody brought that up in the chat.
The Kraken and things from there.
Kraken.
Because
somebody's bringing
or the
up
Kraken
in the
from
chat.
Clash of the Titans, for that matter.
Somebody's
Medusa.
bringing up in the chat the little tiki Zuni doll from Trilogy of Terror.
Oh yeah, Trilogy of Terror.
That's creepy too. That thing was weird.
Well, I mean, Hellraiser's more horror, but I mean, you know,
the Cenobites are monsters, but still,
are they? Yeah, I guess you get Predator is a good one that never came up.
Yeah.
I mean, I
wouldn't see Predator's intelligent. The thing is, the monster. It's kind of, to me, a monster's not has a low intelligence, right? It's just there.
Fair, but I mean, I guess it's my job to kind of set the parameters a little bit better than I did.
Well,
but to be fair,
Dracula was very smart.
Yeah,
that's true. That's a good
I was going to say, I think anything that's inhuman is considered a monster.
Right.
That's kind of the way I was looking at it.
I didn't put Alien on my list purely because I had the Thing. I thought I don't want to put both.
Yeah, and the Alien made the intro, but no, and again, I want to thank Tox, especially considering I know you're in rough shape right now. This was kind of, we decided last minute, since we got through that whole list quicker than we had planned last week when Culture decided not to go live, we spontaneously started this week. And I thought 6 was going to make it tonight. I feel bad she didn't, but I think she either had to work tonight or she had to whatever going on to where she didn't make it or whatever happened. But thanks for her help as well, because she's the one who came up with the list. And I'm glad, because I'm a big Rubber Moon monster fan, obviously, as you can tell from my list. And this was one that I wanted to do. And I'm sure we'll have similar lists to this.
Being a big Rubber fan.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know. Oh, the Jeeper Creepers monster. That's got some weird things attached to it.
Yeah. Let's not go there.
I mean, if an honorable mention for me would be the movie Monsters. I thought that was a good kids movie.
Oh, Monsters Inc.
Yeah, Monsters Inc. Yeah, I thought
Monster Squad.
Monster Squad.
Little Monsters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anybody seen that one with Fred Savage and Howie Mandel?
Yeah.
Long time
King-
ago.
King
Yeah.
Wolf.
One that they basically ripped off at Pixar for Monsters Inc.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah.
Littlest
Yes,
vampire.
you do something.
So there you go, guys. I thought that was an excellent show. I believe if he's not live yet, he will be going live here soon. So this show will be sending you over to Culture Casino. Yes, he should be live already. And I'll probably be heading over there. I don't know if any of these guys will be, but I'll let them let you know on their way out. But the poll in the chat was best monster remake. The Blob came in last place with 11%. King Kong 2005 came in third place with 15%. Godzilla 2014 came in at 18% at second place. And the number one by a mile was The Thing with 54%.
Man.
I wasn't sure what to put on there, but that was the best I could think of. And I'm like, I want to make it. I knew The Thing was going to win.
Right.
It's kind of inevitable. But no. So thank you very much, guys, for being here. Andy, anything you want to plug on the way out the door?
I'll be on Doomcock Show on Wednesday night. We'll be going over a bunch of Halloween movies. Ranker Steve's 1-year anniversary Tuesday on Rumble for Manorama.
Awesome sauce. Toxie, what you got going on?
So probably head over to Culture. Then we got Monday Meltdown tomorrow. There's a whole lot of stuff going on in the entertainment world that we can talk about. Wednesday, that's 9 p.m. Central. Wednesday, we're doing Yelling at Parked Cars over on Rumble Exclusive. We're talking about a lot of things you can't talk on YouTube. And then Thursday with the Throwdown, we start around 9 o'clock. Talk more entertainment news there. So
awesome.
Thanks for having me on, Tom.
Well, and thank you again for all your help considering. I know you're in rough shape.
Yeah, it's been a rough week. Me and Culture been kind of sick.
And I'll definitely get things in a bit better shape this week before it's so
Oh,
late in the week.
We'll be all right.
And then Andrew sent in a super chat real quick and says Kathleen Kennedy and J.J. Abrams' worst monsters in film. Oh, it's so right. It's so right. Thank you for that, Andrew. And Scribe, what you got going on? I'm surprised you were able to make it the whole night tonight. But
I
not doing too
couldn't help but hang out and talk to you guys about movies and stuff. I guess I'm kind of the oddball out from everybody else here. I talk mostly current events and things on my channel, but my regular show is on Thursday nights at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, called TED Excellence, where I take a look at off-brand TED Talks for education and frustration. And it's always entertaining. At least I think so. I might be a masochist. Who knows?
Yeah, well, everybody's got a hobby.
Yeah, exactly.
Brian, what you got coming up?
Well, I'm going to keep the monster theme going for my It's Only Talk and Roll show tomorrow, 3 p.m. Mountain Time. We're going to do scary bands that...
Alice Cooper has had no less than 2 songs about Frankenstein.
Yes, and he fed one of them.
Yes, he fed one, and he was a teenage one.
Yeah, so it'll be about bands that kind of either lean into horror, either through their look or their songs, or both.
So I can imagine like Alice Cooper, obviously, as we mentioned.
Is it?
Zombie,
I've never heard of Alice Cooper. I don't think Alice Cooper will ever be on there. Alice Cooper will be somewhere
Ministry
on that
or
list.
something like that.
King Diamond,
yeah,
stuff like that.
Anthrax,
maybe about 10, maybe
Megadeth.
10 main. Well, you see, I'm not really going for those metal bands.
Okay.
Probably more for your Guars and your
I
Ghosts.
did mention them, yeah.
Yeah, and there'll be some punk stuff on there too. The Cramps, the Misfits, the Damned, the band The Damned.
Yeah.
Can't cover everything. It's too
Right. Well, I don't want to spoil the whole thing. So, all right. Well, that's cool. So check it out tomorrow, Monday afternoon.
A lot of fun. We might
Bon Jovi, they're pretty scary.
Bon Jovi frightened the shit out of me.
Oh, scary as hell.
I'll also be
Bruce
having.
Springsteen.
I'll also have what I think is the most chilling song ever made.
Brian Adams, To Really Love a Woman.
It's along those lines. You're getting the joke already.
No, you forgot about the other Canadian Scribe.
Well, it's funny.
Near,
You mentioned
far,
somebody said, yeah.
Brian's song will go on forever. And you know what? That may be your horror film, Brian's song. Totally different.
Was that John Denver? You came on my pillow.
You came on my pillow, made me happy.
Yes.
That's a Monty Python joke, by the way. I didn't make that up.
Well, that joke crash landed.
Yeah.
Oh,
Then
we'll
to
see.
All right, well,
Goody.
thanks for that, Brian, and we'll see you tomorrow.
What,
Then
too
hopefully.
soon? It's
It'll be a lot of fun. We're gonna have some fun tomorrow.
All
for
right.
sure.
Gary, thank you so much, man, for being here. Hopefully, you come back again soon for the
Sure,
list.
yeah.
So,
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Check out my channel, Gary Ambrosia, on YouTube. Also, you can find me with Andy Masterson and Victor Van Doomcock on the Pop Culture Breakdown
That's right.
on Wednesday nights. Other than that, guys, keep coming back. Hail Midnight's Edge After Dark. We'll see you later.
Thank you. Jason Webster says, well, J.J. Abrams is one of the 4 horsemen of the Disney apocalypse. Then he sent it again. I don't know why he sent it twice. So you may want to check with Google and see if you can't get 5 of that back, Jason.
Like New York, New York. It's so good you say it twice.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I think he just it maybe. So if he's doing it on his phone or something, maybe it hit twice, and it does that sometimes because it's exactly the same thing. I just don't want him to get charged twice for the same thing. So if you contact Google support, let them know that a duplicate went through and you only wanted one. They should be able to get you your money back. If not, but thank you so much, Jason Webster. But yes, they are definitely one of the 4 horsemen of the Disney apocalypse and the Hollywood apocalypse in general. Thank you so much, guys.
Bob Iger the devil.
Absolutely. And I'm going to probably hop on over to Culture Stream for a little bit. But since I put over an hour's worth of work into this, I'm going to play this goddamn intro again. Thanks so much, guys, for making this a huge success. See you over on Culture Stream. This will link you over to
Come on
there.
down and chum some of this shit.